Hey everyone, Firescale Audiobooks here. If there's a novel you'd love to hear more of, you can support us on Patreon or Ko-fi. Depending on your tier, I'll make extra parts just for the stories you're most excited about. Usually I can only upload 4 to 5 parts of each novel, but with your support, we can go beyond that. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe. It helps more than you know.
Hiwaiguo, the head of the He family. 1958 October. In a ward of the 6th Hospital in Sijiu City. Hiwaiguo stared blankly at the ceiling, his face full of doubts about his life. Just a few minutes ago, he was just an ordinary truck driver driving on the highway in the 21st century. A sudden and serious car accident ended his life abruptly. When I opened my eyes again, my consciousness regained consciousness in this strange young body. It is obvious that this is a remote login and the account has been topped. During these few minutes, he slowly integrated the original owner's memories. The original owner, Hiwaiguo, was born in 1933. He joined the army in 1948, fought in the War of Liberation, and also participated in the war to resist U.S. aggression and aid Korea. His original unit was the famous motorized battalion of the 116th Division of the 39th Army of the 4th Field Army. In addition to these military backgrounds, I also recalled my own life experience. His father's name is Hidaching, his younger brother's name is Hiyuju, and his younger sister's name is Hiyushui. I live in the compound at number 95 Nanliuagaxiang. Hiwaiguo had an MMP in his mind, but he didn't know whether he should say it or not. What is this for him? Hidaching, Hiyuju. Isn't this the world from the TV series Love in the Courtyard? He has seen this TV series. The audience has given it a nickname, Birds in the Courtyard. As the title suggests, everyone in the play is a good person, and the neighbors are united and friendly. Well, if you believe it, just pretend I didn't say anything. But if he remembered correctly, there were only Sha Zhu and his sister in this drama, so where did the big brother Hiwaiguo come from? As he sorted out his memories, he gradually felt relieved. The story of the TV series begins in 1965. Hiwaiguo never returned after joining the army in 1948. Hiyuju was still a teenager when he left. In the following long decade, there was no news from this eldest brother. In that chaotic era, his family might even have thought that he had died outside. It's normal that it didn't appear in the play. What made Hiwaiguo even more astonished was the glorious deeds of the original owner. This Hiwaiguo was actually the famous and tyrannical master of Sahayuan back then. He has had an extremely hot temper since he was a child, quarreling all the time and being very rebellious. The most sensational incident happened when I was 15 years old. The reason was that Hidaching was absorbed in having affairs outside at the time and neglected to take care of the 2 children at home. He even had the idea of abandoning his family and running away with someone else. In a fit of rage, the young Hiwaiguo beat Hidaching violently. In an era that values filial piety, a son beating his father is considered earth-shattering and extremely treasonous. What's more important is that Hidaching is also a ruthless man, and his boxing skills are quite amazing. He was actually beaten up by his own son. This shows the original owner's value. This incident spread throughout Nanliuagaxiang in an instant, and Hiwaiguo's name became completely famous. After this fight, the relationship between father and son was completely broken. Hidaching was so angry that he kicked him out of the house. Since then, Hiwaiguo disappeared from the courtyard. People thought he died in troubled times, and no one thought that he would become a soldier. Because he was big, strong, and smart, he was selected to join the motor vehicle battalion that was in urgent need of strong laborers as soon as he joined the army. Trucks back then didn't have power steering, so steering required sheer brute force. Without strong arms, it was impossible to do it. A big guy like him had a natural advantage when driving. Over the years, I have followed the troops in battles across the country, through rain of bullets and shells. According to common sense, a veteran like him who has carried a gun for 10 years and fought in countless battlefields should at least be able to become a platoon leader or company commander. But the original owner had a bad temper and was always a troublemaker. He received more punishments than he had achieved in battle. After serving in the army for 10 years, he was still just a private. This is unique to Scorpion shit. In addition to these memories, he also awakened a golden finger the first time he came here. What is it called? The instant kill system. Supplies can be refreshed once a day and can be obtained through instant sales. At the same time, it also comes with a 500 M2 storage space. As a modern soul who has read many Sahayuan fan fictions, he is no stranger to this routine. Compared to the confusion he felt when he first came through, he has now completely accepted the fact of traveling through time. Well, I've already put it on, so let's just leave it like this. They come, the security. Waiguo, are you awake? Just then, a hurried and surprised voice sounded at the door. Waiguo looked in the direction of the voice and saw a middle-aged man in his early 40s with a stubble on his face striding in, with a look of relief after anxiety on his face. This person was his old battalion commander, Zhou Zhenbang. He has been following Zhou Zhenbang since the day he put on his military uniform. Waiguo quickly propped himself up and sat up. Battalion commander. Why are you here? Hey, Zhou Zhenbang glared at him and said in a loud voice. You're confused, aren't you? Yesterday, I personally took you everywhere to complete the demobilization procedures and job placement for you. Just when you were feeling better, your old injury relapsed and you collapsed unconscious. I'm going to carry you to the hospital right away. You scared me so badly. When Zhou Zhenbang said this, Waiguo remembered. He and Zhou Zhenbang were the last group of volunteers to withdraw from North Korea. After returning to the Shenyang military region, both of them chose to transfer to civilian jobs and be demobilized. They were close superiors and subordinates in the army, and were also fellow villagers from the old city, so it was natural for them to return home together. Having just returned to the city yesterday, the two of them immediately went to handle the procedures for demobilization and transfer of employment. Zhou Zhenbang was a cadre who had transferred to civilian work. In those days, cadres who transferred to civilian work were given promotional treatment. In addition, his family background was very strong, so he was directly assigned to the Dongcheng District Armed Forces Department and became the deputy director. Although Waiguo is a technical soldier, he has made too many mistakes over the years and his file does not look good. Fortunately, he was a car soldier. These days, technical soldiers who know how to drive are very popular after retirement, and all major factories are vying for them. Originally, his job was to drive a car in a steel rolling mill, but Zhou Zhen helped him with some connections. Finally, he was assigned to work as a driver in a food factory, which was more lucrative. His job grade was assigned as a second-level driver. The basic salary, plus his military service allowance, amounted to 74 yuan a month. This was definitely considered a high salary in the late 1950s. What's even more rare is that the factory actually allocated him housing, a single room in a tube-shaped building. Nowadays, tube-shaped buildings are high-end residences that everyone covets, and are usually allocated to small leaders and technical backbones in the factory. He is just an ordinary driver who just joined the factory and is not qualified at all. But Zhou Zhenbang's background and reputation were there, so he managed to get him this enviable residence. However, the tube building will take another 2 months to be completed, so he is not in a hurry. Having watched the TV series, he knew that his family had 2 large main rooms facing north and south in the compound at No. 95 Nanliuagixiang, the eldest brother's obsession, despair, and inheritance. Zhou Zhenbang saw him in a daze and waved his hand in front of him. Hey, what are you daydreaming about? Didn't you hear me? Waiguo came back to his senses, scratched his head, and made up an excuse. Battalion commander, I just woke up and my mind is a little confused. Hearing him say this, a trace of guilt flashed across Zhou Zhenbang's face. Hey, that old injury of yours, it's from when you blocked a shrapnel for me and punctured your lung. The military doctor said that this injury is not serious normally, but it can be fatal if it flares up. Fortunately, you made it through this time. Otherwise your brother, would feel guilty for the rest of my life. As soon as he finished speaking, Waiguo remembered. The original owner seemed to have died from this wound. During the Korean War, the original owner's lungs were pierced by shrapnel while he was protecting Zhou Zhenbang, leaving him with a chronic illness. Yesterday, after much difficulty returning to Beijing and completing the rehabilitation procedures, The immense excitement mixed with the fatigue from the long journey caused his old illness to relapse. Sudden pneumothorax, accompanied by internal bleeding. This man, who had survived the hail of bullets, eventually collapsed on his way home. This gave me the opportunity to take over the magpie's nest. However, it seems to be due to time travel. Waiguo only felt weak at this moment, and his old illnesses had completely healed. "Battalion commander, I'm fine, I just need to rest," Waiguo said in a steady voice. Zhou Zhenbang glanced at him and nodded. "I'm glad you're okay. Wait, I'll get you something to eat. You've been lying down for so long, I bet you're hungry." Waiguo grinned. "All right. Thank you for your hard work, Captain." "You're still saying thank you to me, right?" Zhou Zhenbang scolded with a smile. "Just take a rest, I'll be back soon." After speaking, he left. Waiguo leaned against the head of the bed, feeling uncomfortable in his chest, as if there was a lot of air stuck in his chest. Not physically, but psychologically. After a while, Waiguo realized that this energy was the obsession of the original owner. Speaking of which, this is also a sad story. The original owner, Waiguo, was a tough guy who never blinked an eye on the battlefield, and a scoundrel who dared to beat his own father in the courtyard. But deep down, he is a madman who protects his brothers and sisters like his own life. He has been fearless since he was a child and has done a lot of bad things. The only thing I am sincere about is the pillars and the rain. Although the methods were wrong and Zhuzi was beaten many times since he was a child, it was all for his own good. Why did you fall out with He Daching back then? Isn't it for the pillars and rain? But in the eyes of the neighbors, he is not a good guy. Not only does he beat his brother, he also beats his own father. The reputation is extremely bad. That year, he was kicked out of the house by his father, and he gritted his teeth and joined the army. 10 years away from home, fight from north to south, from the country to North Korea. His life was hanging by a thread so many times, and what kept him alive was just 2 words: go home. Zhuzi's stubborn look and Yushui's timid big eyes are the only light in his heart. He saved his allowance, paring every penny, thinking of going back to buy Zhuzi a pair of good shoes and a piece of flowered cloth for Yushui, to make up for the debt he owed for the past 10 years. 10 years, a full 10 years. Finally, the day came when I took off my military uniform. As he set foot on the land of Sijiu City, his heart almost jumped out of his throat. The closer he got to home, the heavier his steps became. It wasn't because he was tired, but because he was homesick. Mixed with the guilt and anticipation accumulated over the past 10 years, it was about to burst him. He imagined pushing open the mottled gate of number 95 Nanliuagixiang. Zhuzi would be a sturdy man, and Yushui would be a big girl. My mother passed away early, my father was unreliable, and my eldest brother is no longer around. How much will Zhuzi's naive temper and Yushui's soft nature suffer in this world where human nature is fickle? How much injustice have you suffered? He is back, carrying the hard-earned money saved by living frugally, with a heart full of guilt and expectations that are so hot that they can burn myself. He has to shoulder the burden of being an elder brother who is like a father. He must take good care of Zhuzi and not let him go back to his old ways of fighting. He must protect the rain water well and never let anyone bully him. He wanted to let his younger brothers and sisters know that they were not wild children without parents. They still had an older brother. A big brother who stands tall and upright. The door of home is right in front of me, but it just lacks that finishing touch. He suddenly fell ill from an old illness and collapsed. 10 years of gunfire and hail, 10 years of haunting dreams, 10 years of living frugally, 10 years of gritting one's teeth and persevering. All the efforts and expectations turned into nothing with this final push. Home, pillars, rain. Those faces flashed wildly before his eyes. He wanted to catch something, but he couldn't catch anything. His body was uncontrollably cold and stiff, and his vitality was being madly drained away by that damn old injury. When he was dying, the only thought in his mind was guilt. Zhuzi, Yushui, big brother, I'm sorry. Despair, unwilling. He really doesn't want to give in, he still has so much to do, too many things left unsaid. Will that brat Zhuzi get into trouble if he's not watching over him? The rain is so soft, will you be bullied? The money he saved hasn't been handed over to them yet. He hadn't told them in person yet. Big brother is back. Big brother will protect you from now on. But this damn life, he can't get away with it. Before he died, his last words to Zhou Zhenbeng were, Battalion ... Commander, I ... can't take it anymore. Don't tell them don't. Don't let Juzi and Yushui know that I'm back. Just pretend that He Waiguo died here 10 years ago. As the irresponsible elder brother, the only thing he could do in the end was to prevent the news of his death from stabbing the two poor children in the heart. Let them just assume he's dead, having died during the chaotic years of war 10 years ago. At least, you don't have to endure the secondary hurt of being so close yet separated from each other. This also explains why there is no news about this eldest brother in the TV series. After digesting this heavy memory, even though he was a time traveler, he was in tears. He was fully capable of bringing about the despair of the original owner. Elder brother is like father. These 4 words are more important than 1,000 pounds at this moment. It carries the unshirkable responsibility of an eldest son, and also embodies the cruelest mockery and deepest regret imposed on the original owner by fate. He Waiguo clearly felt the heart-wrenching pain of the original owner before he died. Home was right in front of him, and his family was within reach, but he fell at the last step. The despair and unwillingness of failing at the brink of success is 100 times worse than being cut into pieces. After a long time, he finally calmed down and thought, Brother, go in peace. Since I have used your body, from now on I am the eldest son of the He family, He Waiguo. He's the elder brother of Juzi and Yushui. I will make up for all your regrets. I will also fulfill the love you didn't have time to show to your sister-in-law. As long as I have something to eat, they will never go hungry. If the sky falls, I, as the elder brother, will bear it first. Don't worry. I keep my word. The moment he finished speaking, the heavy obsession in his heart that had been suffocating him finally dissipated quietly. Chapter 3 Discharge. Since the original owner agreed to be the head of the He family, he must do what he said. Even though the original owner is no longer with us, the love he felt for his younger brothers and sisters seems to always linger in his heart. He Waiguo was thinking about how to control Sha Zhu. Anyone who has watched the original drama knows that Sha Zhu is a bad guy. Not really. That he's stupid. Not really. He is like a stubborn donkey who puts himself in a cocoon and feels comfortable. To put it bluntly, it's like dying for face and suffering in life. Under the influence of Yi Zhonghai's principles of respecting the elderly and loving the young, and helping each other among neighbors, he has developed a spirit of dedication that is almost self-abuse. And emotionally, this guy is a mess. Instead of looking for a decent young lady, he kept staring at Qin Hueru, a widow with a family. Otherwise, with his status as a cook among the 8 great officials and the 2 bright and spacious main rooms in his house, what kind of innocent girl could he not marry? Do you have to hang yourself on this crooked tree? Isn't this just being a jerk? He Waiguo knew very well that ordinary methods were useless in straightening out the crooked tree of Shaju. Because you can't wake up someone who is pretending to be asleep. To deal with this kind of scoundrel, you have to use drastic measures. Don't mention anything else, just use violence to control it. If you don't obey, I'll beat you. It hurts, I'm afraid of being beaten. This guy has learned his lesson. The main thing is that if this kid doesn't change his character, his future life will be really hard to describe. From his perspective, he could foresee He Yuzhu's life. If it weren't for Lu Ziao, this guy wouldn't even have a future. Since I have become the big brother, I must not let Sha Zhu go back to his old ways. I must force him to change his ways. As for the girl Yu Shui, she rarely appeared in the original drama, so we have to see with our own eyes what her personality is like. Anyway, when I go back, I will definitely guide my brother and sister-in-law onto the right path in life. After suppressing these messy thoughts, He Waiguo felt that his body had almost recovered. After Zhou Zhenbeng bought some food and filled his stomach, he planned to be discharged from the hospital and go home. Go see the legendary Sahayuan? It also carries the original owner's will to make up for those regrets. Right now, he was free anyway, so he thought about it and called up the instant kill system. Soon, a virtual panel appeared before my eyes, and a single product lay alone on the shopping mall page. 2 pounds of melon seeds, flash sale price of 10 cents. Seeing this, He Waiguo was somewhat dissatisfied. What he needs now is food, because he will soon face a 3-year disaster. If you can stock up as much food as possible now, please stock up as much as possible. After all, having food at home will make you feel less anxious. However, he also knew that the system's refresh of supplies was highly random and there was no way to control it. Fortunately, there is still some time before the real disaster comes. With the system and space, and his identity as a food factory driver, he is confident that he can stockpile enough food in the coming time. Finally, looking at the 2 kilograms of melon seeds on the system panel, he Waiguo chose to buy them instantly. After all, it only costs a dime, and even a mosquito leg is meat. It's good to kill time when you're bored. Without hesitation, he thought about it and succeeded in killing it instantly, and the melon seeds were instantly stored in the space. Whenever you want to eat it, you can take it out at any time. Just then, the door of the ward opened. Zhou Zhenbeng came in carrying a net bag with an enamel pot inside. "Hurry up and eat it while it's hot." Zhou Zhenbeng handed over the jar. "Thank you, battalion commander," he Waiguo said and took it. When I opened it, I saw a bowl of watery porridge without even a shred of pickled vegetables. "Battalion commander, is that all?" he Waiguo said with a bitter face. "Isn't this too bland? After eating just this little, it's like having nothing at all. It's not enough to fill me up." Zhou Zhenbeng glared. "Hey, why do I hear you think I'm stingy? I'm telling you, you're a patient right now. The doctor has clearly stated that you can only eat semi-liquid food in your condition. Be content with what you have. I added a spoonful of sugar just for you. It's sweet." He Waiguo really feels like a patient now. He thinks he can eat 3 big bowls of rice. But the reality was that he couldn't change it, and his stomach was indeed empty. He sighed and picked up the jar, gulped down a few mouthfuls of hot porridge with a sweet taste. Like a starving ghost reincarnated, he quickly put down his bowl. He said, "Commander, I feel fine now. I want to be discharged from the hospital and go home." When Zhou Zhenbeng heard this, he shook his head and refused. "No, you almost scared me to death yesterday. Just stay here quietly for a few days and observe. It's not too late to leave once you're sure everything's fine. Why are you in such a hurry now?" But he Waiguo felt that there was nothing wrong with his body and he was eager to go home. "Commander, I know my own body well. I'm really fine. I have to go back. Zhuzi, Yushui and the others are waiting for me." When talking about his younger brother and sister, Zhou Zhenbeng's tense face relaxed. He knew very well how much he Waiguo cared about the 2 little ones. I heard him talk about it a lot during the years in the army, and when he just came back 2 days ago, he couldn't hide his joy. "Alas," Zhou Zhenbeng sighed and gave in. "Well, I'll call a doctor to check you out. If you're really fine, let's go through the procedures to be discharged from the hospital." But the doctor said no, so you just stay here quietly. This is my final concession. No room for negotiation. After Zhou Zhenbeng said this, he Waiguo nodded. "Okay, battalion commander." In fact, he also wanted to check it out, but he was also afraid that it was his illusion. It would not be worth it if something happened. Check to make sure everything is safe so you can feel at ease. Soon, a doctor in a white coat, about 50 years old, walked in. He had a serious expression, wore black-framed glasses, and had an old-fashioned Bakelite stethoscope hanging around his neck. "Comrade He Waiguo, how are you feeling? Are you still experiencing chest tightness, shortness of breath, or pain?" "Doctor, I feel very good. No stuffiness or pain at all." He Waiguo answered straightforwardly. The doctor nodded and walked to the bedside. "Lie down, unbutton your clothes, and expose your chest and back." After a series of examinations, the doctor finally said, "Comrade He Waiguo is now out of serious condition and can be discharged. He only needs to come in for regular checkups." Zhou Zhenbeng breathed a sigh of relief, but he was still worried. "Doctor, do you really not need to take another look?" The doctor pushed up his glasses and said, "Based on the current physical examination, it can be confirmed that the acute attack period has passed and the danger is no longer there. If there's nothing wrong, you can be discharged from the hospital." "Great!" Zhou Zhenbeng was overjoyed, and the stone in his heart finally fell. He was really afraid that something might happen to He Waiguo. If that happened, he would feel guilty for the rest of his life. Chapter 4, Subdistrict Office Settlement. Soon, He Waiguo's discharge procedures were completed. The 2 walked out of the hospital side by side, and Zhou Zhenbeng was the first to speak. "Do you want me to take you home?" "No need." He Waiguo waved his hands repeatedly. "I'm already an adult, and the doctor said I'm fine, right? Why should I send you a gift?" Zhou Zhenbeng nodded. Then I won't be polite with you, kid. I've been with you in the hospital since I came back yesterday to handle the formalities. I haven't slept a wink yet, and I haven't gone home yet. I still have a lot of things to deal with. I won't take you home. I'll go home first and come to see you at compound number 95 tomorrow. After Zhou Zhenbeng finished speaking, he Waiguo nodded and said, Okay. Battalion commander, you go ahead and do your thing. Zhou Zhenbeng was about to leave when he stopped, turned around and said, Oh, right, kid, yesterday's organizational relationship and work have been finalized, but there's one thing you shouldn't forget. Go to the neighborhood office. He held up 2 fingers for emphasis. First, get a household registration card and register your residence. Second, get a town residence food allowance. This is the foundation for settling down. Without it, you can't even buy matches or soap. Remember. He Waiguo's heart trembled, and he nodded quickly. Remember, battalion commander. He really didn't realize this. As a time traveler, his mind was full of thoughts about work, stockpiling food, and returning to the courtyard to see Sha Zhu and Yu Shui, and he almost forgot about this most basic proof of survival. If the old battalion commander hadn't reminded him, he might have gone straight back to Yard 95 in a daze. Well, just remember it. Zhou Zhenbeng nodded with satisfaction. I have already made arrangements with you at your food factory. I will give you 3 days off first, and you can go back to work after 3 days. Finally, he patted He Waiguo's shoulder vigorously. Waiguo, remember, if you encounter problems that you can't solve, come to me. No matter if it's work or life troubles, our friendship started on the battlefield. Although I'm out of uniform now, I, Zhou Zhenbeng, will always be your squad leader and your big brother. Did you hear that? He Waiguo's heart warmed up, he straightened his back and saluted solemnly. Yes, Captain. I remember it. Zhou Zhenbeng looked at his standard military salute, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, and then waved his hand. All right, I'm leaving. After saying this, he did not stop, turned around and walked towards his home with big strides. He Waiguo watched Zhou Zhenbeng disappear before walking out of the hospital. Next, he found the nearest bus stop and boarded a clanging tram. The tram swayed slowly, and the street scene outside the window bore the heavy mark of the times. After a few stops, he got off at the platform near Nanliuagixiang. After some inquiries along the way, he finally found the place with the sign of Nanliuagixiang Sub-District Office. Walking into the slightly old gate of the street office, the light inside was a little dim. As soon as He Waiguo stood still, a female cadre, about 50 years old, wearing a dark blue linen suit and with her hair neatly combed, came towards him. This is Director Wang from the street. When Director Wang saw He Waiguo, who was wearing a faded old military uniform and had an upright posture, he first gave a professional smile. Comrade, what are you doing? He Waiguo said, Hello, I'm here to register my household registration. Director Wang was stunned for a moment, then he said, Comrade, do you live in this area? He Waiguo nodded. Yes, I live in compound number 95. Compound number 95. Director Wang was stunned. Before the founding of the People's Republic of China, she lived in Yard 97 and later became the director of the street office. She had some impression of the original inhabitants of Nanliuagixiang. Even if she didn't recognize the little guy in front of her, she should know the older generation. She was a little curious. Little comrade. Excuse me, what are your parents' names? He Waiguo didn't know why Director Wang asked this, but he answered truthfully. My father's name is He Daqing. He Daqing. Courtyard 95. Director Wang's eyes suddenly widened, and his face was instantly filled with shock. Oh, I know who you are. The eldest son of He Daqing's family, the little bully of this area back then. I heard that you even beat up your father. She finally remembered, her voice filled with disbelief. Oh my God, there has been no news from you in these years. Your family, your neighbors all thought you were dead. She looked at He Waiguo's military uniform, and everything was self-evident. So he's joining the army. Good boy, you have a bright future. He Waiguo smiled. Although he was willing to talk to Director Wang for a few more words, he had more important things to do now. Director Wang, I just got discharged from the army. Could you please transfer my household registration too? Oh, right, business is more important. Director Wang recovered from his great surprise and nodded repeatedly. It'll be good to come back, it'll be good to come back. Go, come with me. She led He Waiguo to a desk near the window and said to a young female clerk inside, "Zio Liu, please help Comrade He Waiguo get his residence and food permit. He's an old resident of our neighborhood, the eldest son of the He Daching family in Yard 95. He just got back from the army." With Director Wang personally leading the process was incredibly fast. Zio Liu took out a few forms. "Comrade He, please fill out this permanent resident registration form first. Once you've filled it out and registered your household registration, you can be considered a true resident of Beijing." She took out another small notebook. "This food supplement booklet must be tied together with your household registration card. With it, you can buy rationed items with a ticket: salt, matches, soap, kerosene. These necessities of life all depend on it." He Waiguo took the form and pen, secretly thanking Zhou Zhenbang for his reminder. These things are completely unfamiliar to him as a modern soul. As he carefully filled out the form, he once again felt the real sense of being part of this era. Having a job is not enough. These small tickets are the capillaries of life. Under Director Wang's guidance, Zio Liu completed all the procedures efficiently. A brand new household registration page and a small booklet with a dark blue cover and a printed certificate for the purchase of non-staple food for urban residents were solemnly handed to He Waiguo. Defending the country, Director Wang walked him to the door and said earnestly, "Before the 15th of every month, you have to take your grocery book to the designated grocery store to register and collect your ticket for the next month. If you leave after the 15th, your monthly ration tickets will be invalid. Remember that." He Waiguo nodded quickly. "I'll remember that, Director Wang, thank you." He thought to himself that he didn't need to keep an eye on this matter every day. Sha Zhu works in the canteen of the steel mill and deals with oil, salt, sauce, and vinegar every day. He knows everything about these tickets. When the time comes, just give the notebook to Sha Zhu or Yu Shui and let them collect it on your behalf. As a driver myself, I may not always be able to catch up on time. Anyway, he has the chef Sha Zhu at home, so he doesn't worry too much about food. Director Wang looked at He Waiguo, who had shed his youthful anger and appeared much calmer, with a hint of elder's concern and expectation in his eyes. "Waiguo, you can be considered as saving your life from the battlefield. From now on, just live a good life. We're in this area, and we know all the neighbors well. You should be more reserved." "Okay." Obviously, Director Wang still remembers vividly how He Waiguo beat He Daching. Think more about things and don't be as impulsive as before. Being safe and sound is better than anything else. He Waiguo heard the sincerity and concern in Director Wang's words, and his heart warmed slightly. He nodded solemnly again. "Director Wang, don't worry, I know the severity of the situation. Thank you for your reminder." After saying that, he turned and walked out of the street office. Standing at the familiar intersection of Nanliuagixiang, He Waiguo took a deep breath and tightened the military bag on his shoulder. Everything is done. Now, it's time to go home. Chapter 5, Return to the Sihayuan. He Waiguo stepped over the threshold. The front yard is not big, and a skinny figure is watering the flowers with an enamel pot. As soon as he saw the figure, He Waiguo guessed who it was. That's right, it's Yan Fugui, the stingy Yan. The famous saying in the original book, "You won't be poor if you don't have enough food to eat and enough clothes to wear, but you will be poor if you don't plan well," is this gentleman's motto. Today he finally saw the true Buddha. At this moment, Yan Fugui also noticed He Waiguo, and he glanced at him several times in a row. It is normal to be highly vigilant in this era, especially for people like Yan Bugui who live in the front yard and consider themselves the first gatekeeper. However, He Waiguo knew very well that Yan Laoxi's vigilance was probably only 10% to prevent enemy spies, and the remaining 90% was to figure out whether he could get some benefits from strangers. For example, you can charge a fee for directions or help move some things as a token of appreciation. Anyway, the geese pass by and pluck feathers. The total amount is left behind. "Hey, this young comrade, you look unfamiliar. Are you a new resident in our courtyard, or are you here to visit relatives?" Yan Fugui came forward while speaking and smiling. He Waiguo deeply dislikes people like Yan Bugui who are calculating and never satisfied with taking advantage of others. But since he had just arrived and the other party was just asking routine questions, he couldn't just turn his face away. Teacher Yan. It's me, he Waiguo. Waiguo. The smile on Yan Bugui's face froze instantly, and he was visibly stunned. He pushed up his glasses that had slid to the tip of his nose and looked at He Waiguo in disbelief. He is different from Director Wang from the street office. He grew up watching He Waiguo running wild in the yard, wearing open crotch pants. Over the years, everyone in the courtyard, including the He family themselves, has tacitly accepted that He Daqing's unruly eldest son had died outside long ago. Wei, Waiguo, is it really you? Yan Bugui's voice changed. You. He pointed at He Waiguo's clothes and spoke incoherently. Well, I went to the army and just came back. He Waiguo was brief and to the point and didn't want to waste time talking to him. Oh my. It's incredible. It's incredible. Yan Bugui slapped his thigh, and the shock on his face quickly turned into an exaggerated surprise, as if He Waiguo was his biological son who had been lost for many years. It's great to be a soldier. It's glorious to defend our country. It's glorious. We've finally got someone who's making progress in our courtyard. Look at how energetic he is. He surrounded He Waiguo and admired him, but his little eyes flashed with calculation. Having laid enough groundwork, Yan Bugui changed the subject. Waiguo, look at you. If you survive a great disaster, you will surely have good fortune in the future. Another honorable discharge from the army. This is a great joyous event for our entire hospital. Tonight, I'll have to set up 2 tables at your house and invite all the neighbors to come and welcome you and celebrate. Do you think what I said makes sense, Uncle Third? After saying this, he rubbed his hands together, his face full of anticipation. He Waiguo sneered in his heart. Yan Laoxi really lived up to his reputation. Every 3 sentences he spoke were about the nature of taking advantage. He didn't even raise his eyelids, and his tone was very calm. Teacher Yan, I just came home and have a lot of things to sort out. I don't know what's going on in the house. Let's talk about the banquet later. Seeing He Waiguo's attitude, Yan Fugui didn't bother to argue any further. It is true that he is thick-skinned, but it depends on who he is dealing with. Who is this man in front of me? That was the ruthless guy who dared to pin his own father He Daqing to the ground and beat him at the age of 15. He even dares to beat his own father, so he, as the 3rd uncle, should stop putting on airs. It would be really not worth it to get beaten up if I really pissed this guy off. That's right. You should settle down first after you get back. Then go back to the house and take a look. Go back quickly. Yan Bugui immediately put on an expression of understanding, laughed dryly, and stepped aside to make way, which was very tactful of him. He Waiguo ignored him and strode towards the central courtyard. Yan Bugui looked at the direction where He Waiguo disappeared, and the fake smile on his face instantly disappeared. He patted his chest with lingering fear, picked up the kettle, and hurried back to his house. Oh, old Yan, you're so flustered, did you see a ghost? Aunt Yang Ruihua was pasting matchboxes in the house when she was startled by her husband. Yan Bugui put the kettle on the ground, picked up the large teapot on the table, took 2 gulps of boiled water, and then said with a gasp, "Guess who I ran into at the door just now?" "Who is it? Look how scared you are." He Waiguo, the eldest son of the He Daqing family. He Waiguo. Who? Yang Ruihua's voice also rose. He Waiguo. Didn't he die a long time ago? How many years has it been? Who says it's not? Yan Bugui put down the teacup and said, Karen is really back. He's wearing an old military uniform, tall and strong, and that look in his eyes. Tusk, even creepier than when he was a kid. It looks like it's been on the battlefield for a few rounds. No doubt about it. Yang Ruihua was so shocked that he couldn't close his mouth for a long time. Oh my God. This He family boss is back. His temper back then. She thought of the way He Waiguo walked sideways in the yard, and the ferocity with which he beat He Daqing, and her back felt a chill. That's not an ordinary temper. Yan Bugui nodded repeatedly. Shaju is arrogant enough, right? But in front of his brother, he is just a little mouse. I was beaten so badly back then. I couldn't even pull myself together. This is going to be a lively scene. Yang Ruihua murmured, with a complex expression on his face that seemed to be enjoying the excitement. Now that he's back, can the courtyard still be peaceful? Especially the Jia family and old Ye. She didn't finish her words, but the meaning was clear. Over the years, Yi Zhonghai has been biased, and the Jia family has taken advantage of He Yuzhu. Although He Yuzhu was a bad person in the past, he was controlled by Yi Zhonghai with a moral stick, and coupled with his feelings for Qin Huiru, he had to endure many losses in silence. But now He Waiguo is back. Everything is different. Yan Bugui agreed deeply, with a gleam in his small eyes. Who says it's not true? That boy Shaju looks arrogant, but he's actually very honest and easy to fool. But He Waiguo. He paused, remembering the indifferent look just now. This kid has been a thorn in his side since he was little. He's ruthless and cunning, but he's much more cunning than Shaju. After all these years of fighting in the military, he might have become even more ruthless. That old hag Jia Zhang still wants to take advantage of the He family like she did to Shaju, but I'm afraid it will be difficult. And old Yi, this He Waiguo is back and he wants to control Shaju. I think it's doomed. Yang Ruihua also nodded and added. It's not just other families. With He Waiguo's bad temper, if he wants to take over the house, he might even kick out his two younger brothers and sisters. After Yang Ruihua said this, Yan Fugui finally reacted and agreed with him. Tusk, if you put it that way, it's really possible. That bastard can do anything. Not only will the other families be affected, I don't think the pillars and rain will escape either. A sin. Chapter 6 I am Brother Shaju. He Waiguo just arrived at the intermediate court. I saw a young woman wearing a blue floral shirt bending over and washing a large basin of clothes by the pool. She has a plump figure, and there is a noticeable bulge in her belly. No need to guess, it must be the laundry lady Qin Huiru. She is now in her mid-20s, which is the time when a woman sheds her youthfulness and blossoms with the charm of a young woman. The silhouette outlines a somewhat moving curve in the sunset. No wonder that boy Shaju was so bewildered by her. Qin Huiru does have some qualities. However, He Waiguo had no interest in Qin Huiru herself. At this moment, Qin Huiru also noticed the gaze of this strange soldier. She stopped what she was doing, wiped the sweat off her forehead with the back of her hand, and put on her usual flattering smile. Comrade, who are you looking for? She had been married into the Jia family for several years and knew most of the leaders in the courtyard. But she had never seen this handsome soldier in front of her. I'm not here to look for anyone, He Waiguo said calmly, pointing to his own door. I'm going home. After a pause, he continued. By the way, my name is He Waiguo, and I'm He Yuzhu's elder brother. What? Qin Huiru was stunned for a moment, her face full of surprise. Brother Shaju? She has been married into this courtyard for almost 5 years and has never heard anyone mention that Shaju has an older brother. She subconsciously looked at He Waiguo. He was tall and straight, and his military uniform was clean although washed a little pale. He has thick eyebrows, big eyes and sharp gaze, and his whole body exudes the calmness and strength of someone who has experienced many ups and downs. Then think about the silly guy who looks old and spends all day around the stove. These two people standing together don't look like brothers at all. Are you really brothers Yuzi? Qin Huiru's voice was filled with confusion. But you and Juzi look not at all like each other. He Waiguo made up a random excuse. Maybe he looks like He Daqing, and I look like my mother. Although this reason is perfunctory, it makes sense. Qin Huiru said, oh, but her mind was racing. Sha Zhu's elder brother is back, so the He family's house. She thought to herself that something was wrong. She had already planned that when the rain got heavier, she would go to live in the school dormitory, and one of the 2 spacious main rooms in the He family would be available for her household expenses. The Jia family is now extremely crowded. The penis has grown bigger, and the baby in my belly is about to be born, but my mother-in-law, Jia Zhang, keeps complaining that the place is too small. She had been thinking that when the time came, she would ask Sha Zhu to give in and arrange for Bang Zheng and her mother-in-law to live in the empty room in the He family. Unexpectedly, Sha Zhu suddenly had a big brother. Wouldn't her wishful thinking be in vain? Qin Huiru's heart sank. At this moment, the cotton curtain of the Jia family's door was lifted, and a short and fat figure walked out angrily. The person who came was Jia Zhang, with a round face, drooping cheeks, triangular eyes, and a mean look. She was just listening to the noise in the room. Huiru, who are you talking to? You're making so much noise. Mom, Qin Huiru responded quickly, this comrade. He said his name is He Waiguo and he's Yuzi's older brother. What? Jia Zhang's voice suddenly rose an octave. Silly Zhu's elder brother. She stared at He Waiguo for a while, then said with disdain, "Who are you fooling here? I've lived in this courtyard for so many years, but I've never heard that Sha Zhu has an older brother. Where did you come from? Are you trying to pretend to be a relative and cheat someone out of the house? I think you're a bad guy who's sneaked into the crowd, pretending to be a PLA soldier. Believe it or not, I'm going to the neighborhood office and the police station right now to report you. Don't think you can fool people just because you're wearing green clothes." He Waiguo looked coldly at the old woman in front of him who was spitting and had a ferocious face. "There is not much ripples in my heart." Jia Zhang, one of the most disgusting characters in the original novel. Selfishness, greed, arrogance, and stupidity are now standing before my eyes, and their disgust is even more than what can be described in words. He looked at the old woman and said lightly, "When I left, your family hadn't moved in yet. Isn't it normal that you didn't recognize me?" His words immediately stepped on Jia Zhang's tail. The Jia family moved from the countryside to the old city in the early days of the founding of the People's Republic of China. At that time, the city was in ruins and needed a large amount of labor. The settlement policy was relaxed, so they were able to settle down in the courtyard. Later, when the country's first 5-year plan came into effect and the factory expanded its recruitment, her son Jia Dongsu got a job as a worker in the steel rolling mill. This city dweller's identity is the biggest source of Jia Zhang's superiority in front of her daughter-in-law Qin Huiru, a country girl. She always felt that Qin Huiru was marrying above her station in the Jia family. In fact, she still has a rural household registration and does not have an urban quota, which makes her feel inferior in front of the old residents with good family backgrounds. She was instantly defeated. "You're talking nonsense. You're a liar who came from nowhere, and you dare to deceive people here. Be careful or I'll sue you to the government right away." He Waiguo glanced at her and didn't bother to speak at all. It's really embarrassing to argue with such an old hag with low cognition. However, the commotion here soon attracted other residents. At this time, most of the men have not yet finished get off work, and most of the people left in the yard are housewives. The first person who came out after hearing the noise was an old lady who lived in the middle courtyard. She looked at the people who were confronting each other in the courtyard, especially the tense Jia Zhang and the indifferent soldier, and quickly walked over and asked, "Sister-in-law Huiru, what's going on? What are you arguing about?" Qin Huiru seemed to have found her backbone and said quickly, "Auntie, this comrade said he's Yuzi's older brother, He Waiguo. But my mom and I have never heard of him, so I asked a few more questions." He Waiguo. When the old lady heard the name, her body trembled noticeably and her face was instantly filled with astonishment. She turned her head suddenly and stared at He Waiguo, looking him up and down. After watching for more than 10 seconds, the aunt asked tentatively, Are you really Waiguo?" He Waiguo met her gaze and nodded calmly. "Yeah, looks like, so much like, those eyebrows, that figure." The old lady muttered to herself, took another step forward, and said with emotion, "Ouch, it's really you, kid. You little bastard. You all these years, we thought you were gone. That year you had a fight with your father and ran away. It was a chaotic time, and your father also." She didn't finish her words but sighed heavily, then noticed He Waiguo's military uniform and asked, "Waiguo, are you going to the army?" He Waiguo looked at this old lady, who didn't have many scenes in the original play. He couldn't say he liked her or disliked her. His tone softened a little. "Yes, Aunt Yi. I ran away from home that year, and just when the army was recruiting, I followed them. Then I followed the troops to North Korea and just came back." North Korea. The aunt really didn't expect that He Waiguo actually participated in the war to resist U.S. aggression and aid Korea. He Waiguo nodded. "Yes." The aunt frowned and said, "Didn't the Korean War end a long time ago? Why are you coming back now?" In fact, it's not the aunt's fault. As a woman, it's normal for her to have only a vague understanding of these things. He Waiguo explained, "Aunt Yi, you are right. The war ended in July 53. But our troops were left behind to assist in the reconstruction. It wasn't until this year that the troops were returned to China in 3 batches. I was among the last group to return home." Chapter 7, He Waiguo's reputation. There were already quite a few people gathered in the middle courtyard. Most of them were women who stayed at home, and some half-grown boys. However, they didn't know what happened exactly. They just saw a strange man in military uniform in the middle of the yard. At this moment, everyone was talking among themselves. What the hell is going on? I don't know. I don't know either. I'll know after I see it. That's true. Anyway, with Jia Dongsu's mother here, there will be something exciting to watch today. In the middle of the courtyard, after listening to He Waiguo's explanation, an old lady looked relieved and said, Okay, I'm glad you're back. You've made it big, you bastard. Come back and live a good life. Looking at the aunt's relieved expression, He Waiguo didn't know whether it was true or not. After all, Yi Zhonghai has calculated everyone for his retirement, and it is unknown whether this old lady is involved. He Waiguo had no idea whether the old lady's expression was fake, but these didn't have much impact on him. Even though the aunt had personally verified He Waiguo's identity, Jia Zhang still refused to give in. She said, even if Sha Zhu has an older brother, so what? He's been away from home for so many years, and now he suddenly comes back and calls himself Sha Zhu's older brother. Who believes it? Where's the evidence? What does looking alike prove? In my opinion, you just came back to cheat people out of the house. As soon as these words were spoken, before He Waiguo had time to respond, people in the courtyard started talking about it. The first person to speak was Yan Jicheng. What the hell? What did Jia Zhang say? Is this guy brother Sha Zhu? Liu Guangqi followed closely behind. It's over. The biggest bastard in all of Nanluogixiang is back. Liu Guangfu was also stunned. Obviously, when He Waiguo ran away from home, he was very young and didn't remember as much as his brothers. But the three words, He Waiguo, are well known. Although he is not in the courtyard, the entire courtyard is filled with his legend. That's the man who even beat up his own father, He Daqing. Unlike their family, the brothers in their family were beaten up by Liu Heizhong every day. Many times they wanted to imitate He Waiguo, but they simply didn't have the courage. In addition to the younger generation talking, the second aunt who came over also quickly stepped forward and covered Jia Zhang's mouth. Although Jia Zhang didn't know He Waiguo, she knew him very well. She lowered her voice and said to Jia Zhang, Sister-in-law, please be quiet. He Waiguo is no fool. If you piss him off, he'll really hit you. He's the one who even beat up his father, He Daqing. Think about it yourself. Jia Zhang is not stupid. On the contrary, she is very smart. None of the ants in the yard have an easy time. At this moment, second aunt came over to persuade her not to mess with He Waiguo. That meant that He Waiguo was definitely not someone to be messed with. If I really piss this guy off later, it won't be worth it to get beaten up. Jia Zhang suddenly shut up, leaving everyone watching the show at a loss. They knew Jia Zhang too well. She was the most unreasonable person in the courtyard. If there was no benefit in the end, she would throw a tantrum. She was the kind of person who would not give up until she got the rabbit. Is the sun coming out in the west today? You actually listen to advice so much. The young people in the yard started talking about this change again. Especially the new residents who moved into the courtyard, their faces were full of curiosity at this moment, and they asked, what's going on? Why is Jia Zhangxi so obedient today? I don't know what second aunt said, but Jia Zhangxi actually shut up. Could it be related to the guy in military uniform in the yard? I just heard. That guy seems to be brother Sha Zhu. Isn't brother Sha Zhu so famous? Yes, I am very curious about my brother Sha Zhu now. Me too. Hearing that these new residents were curious about He Waiguo's glorious deeds, the young people like Yan Jicheng hurried to explain, with a look of boasting on their faces. There is a kind of I know, you newcomers just listen up. Hey, boss He, what do you say? Silly Zhu, you all know this, right? Fighting is considered good, right? Several new residents nearby nodded. I know, he's the god of war in our courtyard, nicknamed the number 1 pair of flowery sticks in Nanluogixiang. Yan Jicheng nodded with satisfaction and continued. Let me tell you this, a guy like Sha Zhu, his brother can beat 5 of them. I'm not exaggerating at all. Sha Zhu is usually quite a jerk, right? When he sees his brother, his legs start to shake when he walks. If his brother is unhappy, his own father will be beaten too. He's such a ruthless person. When the new residents heard what Yan Jicheng said, they all gasped. Sha Zhu and the others knew that who in the courtyard could beat him? That fight was fierce. The guy in military uniform in the yard can actually beat up 5 idiots. What does that mean? However, Yan Jicheng and his friends did not intend to stop there. They recounted all the glorious deeds that He Waiguo had done in the past few years. Especially, the explosive news of He Dacheng being beaten up left the new residents stunned. However, He Waiguo, who was standing in the center of the crowd, did not react much to these discussions. He looked at the ant and said, "Aunt Yi, do you know where the pillars and rainwater went?" The ant thought for a moment and then said, Zhu Zai is at work today. Yu Shui should have gone to school too. She should have finished around 5 p.m., so it should still be 2 or 3 o'clock. When Qin Hueru next to her heard the old lady talking about He Yushui, her expression became a little unnatural, and this scene was clearly captured by He Waiguo. As a soldier for so many years, I do have some observation skills. However, he couldn't understand why Qin Hueru had this expression, but there must be something going on. At this moment, Yan Jifeng's voice came and he said, "Brother He, I know where Yu Shui is. She didn't go to school today. I just saw her in the alley outside." He Waiguo looked at Yan Jifeng and said, "Then please go call Yu Shui back and tell her that her brother is back." Yan Jifeng nodded, then turned around and ran out of the yard quickly. When Yan Jifeng ran out, Qin Hueru's expression changed again. This time, He Waiguo could be more certain that Yu Shui must have something to do with the Jia family. Otherwise, Qin Hueru's expression would not change continuously. But he didn't know what was going on. He could only wait until the rain came back to find out what was going on. However, given the nature of the Jia family, it is probably not a good thing. Chapter 8: Timid Rain. In the alley outside the courtyard, Bang Zheng was shouting loudly, "He Yushui, I don't care, buy me some firecrackers. If you don't, I'll sue you." Bang Zheng, who was over 3 years old, put his hands on his hips. His face flushed red and threatened in a hoarse voice, "I'll sue you for hitting me. Let my grandma scold you to death, beat you to death." He Yushui's thin body was trembling slightly, and he stood there helplessly. She was supposed to be in school today. But early in the morning, Qin Hueru came to the house and said that there was a lot of work at home, and Bang Zheng wanted someone to take him out to play, so she asked her to take a day off to help take care of him. She didn't want to agree, she really didn't want to. But silly brother was easily persuaded and couldn't resist Qin Hueru's sweet words, so he persuaded her to agree. In the end, she had no choice but to agree. This is not the first or second time that I have used the stick joke. This kid has been spoiled and lawless since he was young. Whenever he comes out, he asks for candy or toys, but she doesn't have a penny on her. What can she buy them with? I wandered around the alley for a long time today, and I kept thinking about jokes. I wanted everything I saw. If you don't give it to me, I'll immediately roll on the ground and howl so loudly that it can be heard halfway down the street, and I'll keep accusing you of hitting me. He Yushui really felt wronged. Why? Why should she take care of the Jia family's children? Why should I be threatened by this little bastard? But she was also afraid, extremely afraid of Jia Zhang's mean face. If Bang Zheng really went back to complain, the old woman would not care whether it was true or not. A scolding would be the least of her worries. She might even beat her silly brother had good intentions, but he couldn't stand the old man in the hospital who always used the principles of mutual help among neighbors and respecting the elderly and loving the young to pressure him. In addition, Qin Hueru wiped her tears and said a few soft words beside him, so the silly brother became dispirited. Many times when she was wronged, she could only hold it in. Seeing that she didn't move, Bang Zheng cried even harder, hitting her legs with his little fists. "Buy firecrackers, buy them for me." Wah, He Yushui was so anxious that she was at a loss, tears welling up in her eyes. It can't be coaxed or pulled. She really didn't know what to do. Just then, a burst of hurried footsteps came from the entrance of the alley. Yan Jifeng ran over breathlessly, holding his knees and gasping for breath. "Rain, rain, hurry. Go home." He Yushui's heart skipped a beat and his face turned pale. Could it be that Jia Zhang heard Bang Zheng crying, found it so quickly? That's impossible. They are still far away from the yard. She was so frightened that she was at a loss of her wits. Yan Jifeng took a deep breath and quickly added, "It's your elder brother. Your elder brother He Waiguo is back. He told you to go back quickly." "Big brother." He Yushui was completely stunned and stared at Yan Jifeng blankly. She remembered that she had an older brother, but she was only 4 years old when he left home, so her memory had long been blurred. Over the years, his family members assumed he had died outside and dared not mention it much. Occasionally, I'd hear the old folks in the compound talk about how this eldest brother was a bastard, how he'd been fighting all over the alleys since he was little, how lawless he was, and how he even dared to beat up his own father, He Daching. No matter what others say, he is still her elder brother. Big Brother is back, so will she not be bullied anymore? As soon as a faint hope emerged, it was suppressed by deeper bitterness. She dared not think. Over the years, she has suffered from the squeeze of people in the courtyard and the bullying of the Jia family. There is no adult in the family who can support the family. My father ran away with someone, my mother died a long time ago, and my eldest brother has disappeared. Silly brother is too soft-hearted and can't protect her at all. Every day is spent in fear and trepidation, as if walking on thin ice. What could she expect from this big brother who only existed in scary rumors? If her own father could run away, why would an older brother who hasn't been heard from for more than 10 years and is said to have a bad temper care about her life or death? She is already very satisfied that her brother can support her schooling and give her food to eat. As long as she has no expectations of this elder brother, she won't be disappointed. Let's go. Let's go. He Yushui's voice trembled. There is no way to escape from this mess. Bangjang seemed to have grasped something and cried even harder, kicking his short legs and shouting in a deafening voice. I won't leave. By firecrackers, He Yushui hit me. Grandma. Grandma save me. Wah. On the way back, He Yushui was in great torment. Bangjang is only 3 years old. If he goes back and cries and makes a fuss like this, people in the courtyard will definitely believe him. Children can't lie. That old hag, Mrs. Jia Zhang, usually dotes on her grandson like the apple of her eye. Even though she knows that Bangjang is lying, she still puts all the blame on her. Scolding is the least of my worries. He Yushui didn't dare to think further. Every step on the way home was painful. His already thin body was now even more shaky, as if a gust of wind could blow him down. As soon as the 3 of them entered the front yard, Yan Bugui's shrewd eyes swept over them. He pushed his glasses up, put on a fake sympathy on his face, and spoke to He Yushui. Hey, Yushui is back. Planning to go see your big brother. Without waiting for He Yushui to answer, he immediately lowered his voice, with a tone that seemed to be thinking about you. But in fact, every word was heartbreaking. Yushui listened to Uncle Three's advice. Your eldest brother, Tusk, he's not a pushover. Who in the neighborhood doesn't know him? He's the guy who even beat up your own father. What a scoundrel. Why did he come back so suddenly? I think it's probably because of the house. How spacious and bright are your 2 main rooms? Now that he's back, you and Shaju, alas. Yan Bugui sighed heavily and shook his head. It's really bad, I don't even have a place to stay. How pitiful. These words stabbed He Yushui's heart like a knife. My already fragile heart was instantly broken. The tears could no longer be stopped, and they fell like beads with broken string. Why is her life so miserable? He grew up without a father or a mother, and his only silly brother couldn't protect him, so he was bullied and looked down upon. Now that bastard elder brother is back. Not only can they not rely on him, but he might also take away the only house they have. What will she do in the future? Sleeping on the street? She was overwhelmed by despair and fear. She had to meet that strange and terrifying elder brother and face the wrath of Jia Zhang. She just felt a black screen in front of her eyes, and her calves were cramping. At this moment, Bangjang's wailing suddenly rose an octave, as if he had finally returned to his home turf and had someone to back him up. He broke free from He Yushui's hand and rushed into the central courtyard like a small cannonball, throwing himself into the arms of Jia Zhang, who came out after hearing the noise. He pointed at He Yushui and cried heart-wrenchingly. Although the words were still a little unclear, the meaning of the accusation was clear. Grandma, NNNN, woo, Yushui hit me, it hurts. It hurts. Grandma hit her. She scolded her, give me, revenge, woo-woo-woo. Sure enough, Jia Zhang's fat face turned gloomy in an instant. Chapter 9, Don't you even know how to call me big brother when you see me? Jia Zhang was so angry that she pointed her short, thick finger at He Yushui and started cursing. You damned loser, you lowlife. How dare you hit my grandson? I'll tear your mouth apart and skin you alive. You bastard, you have no parents to teach you. These dirty words hurt He Yushui's already fragile nerves. Her thin body trembled silently, and she didn't even dare to cry out loud. She could only bite her lower lip tightly and let out suppressed sobs. Just then, snap! An extremely loud slap was heard. Jia Zhang's short and fat body was blown away by a huge force and fell heavily on the ground. Half of his cheek became red and swollen at a speed visible to the naked eye, with several finger marks clearly imprinted on it. The one who took action was He Waiguo. He didn't hesitate at all, nor did he say a word. He occupied this body, used someone else's identity, and lived in someone else's house, so he is now He Waiguo. He's the eldest brother of the He family. He promised the original owner that he would take good care of his younger siblings, and so he definitely did. That old bastard He Daching abandoned his family and ran away, and his mother died early. Elder brother is like father. How could he watch his own sister being insulted and bullied by an old hag and remain indifferent? Especially when he saw He Yushui's appearance at the moment, his heart ached. Yu Shui was as thin as a piece of paper, his hair was dry and tangled, and his clothes were covered with patches layer upon layer. Those eyes were filled with helplessness and fear. They always subconsciously avoided looking at people, and there were still traces of tears in the corners of their eyes. This look pierced He Waiguo's heart like a needle. He didn't hold back at all when he slapped me just now. There was a lot of movement. At this moment, everyone was stunned. Their eyes were wide open and their mouths were wide enough to fit an egg. That's Jia Zhang. The number one shrew in the courtyard, the tough guy. She usually relies on her age to act like a spoiled brat and act unruly. Even the old man Ye Zhanghai is often troubled by her, and others try to avoid her whenever possible. I never expected that Mr. He Waiguo really doesn't tolerate it. Just do it when you say you will, quick and efficient. Not to mention the onlookers, even the person involved, Jia Zhang, was completely stunned at this moment. She lay on the ground, half of her face was burning with pain, her ears were buzzing, and her mind was blank. In her entire life, when had Jia Zhang ever been beaten? She was stunned for 3 seconds before the huge humiliation, and pain turned into overwhelming rage. She suddenly jumped up, not caring about the dust on her face, and started howling at the top of her lungs. Someone come, someone's been beaten to death. This is so unfair. This little beast. Snapped. The second slap was harder and louder than the first. Jia Zhang was hit so hard that she staggered, and the rest of her words were all swallowed back into her stomach. He Waiguo stared at her intently. You howl again. Jia Zhang was beaten so hard that she saw stars and both sides of her face were swollen. But who is she? She is Jia Zhang. The Sahayuan's fighting value is the ceiling. How can you be scared by 2 slaps? The intense feeling of humiliation instantly overwhelmed her fear. She glared with her triangular eyes and opened her mouth again regardless of the consequences. You bastard! I'm going to fight you. I snapped. The third slap was solid and powerful. The beating made Jia Zhang's eyes go dark and she almost fell down again. You howl again? It was still those 3 cold words. He Waiguo is very clear-headed. It is a waste of life to reason with such an old shrew with low cognition and a confused mind. Fists are the hardest truth. If Jia Zhang dared to howl, he would slap her. He wanted to see whether this old hag's words were harder or his slap was harder. Jia Zhang was really a little scared after being beaten. Both sides of my face were burning with pain. It felt like a bee was buzzing in my ears, and the figures in front of my eyes began to shake. But the dignity of a shrew still supported her, and she still wanted to squeeze out some movement. Snapped. The fourth slap snapped. The fifth, He Waiguo had no intention of stopping. As long as she made a little sound from her throat, no matter if it was a howl or not, she would be slapped. The action was decisive and without any delay. Several ants finally woke up from their petrified state, rushed over in a hurry, and hurriedly grabbed He Waiguo's arms. Defend the country, defend the country. Stop fighting, we can't fight anymore. My sister-in-law is confused. She's so rude, you are so magnanimous. We're all from the same courtyard, so we'll see each other sooner or later. Forget it. If you keep fighting, something bad will happen. He Waiguo said nothing, his eyes fixed on Jia Zhang. Jia Zhang finally gave in completely. His cheeks were swollen like steamed buns, blood was oozing from the corners of his mouth, his ears were buzzing, and he saw double. She collapsed on the ground, shaking all over. She is a bitch, but not stupid. He Waiguo is really brave and ruthless. If you keep howling, you'll probably die here today. The huge fear finally overwhelmed her strength. She kept her mouth tightly shut and didn't even dare to breathe loudly. At this moment, the courtyard also recovered and discussed. Oh my god, it's really a beating. Hiss. This he family boss is really cruel. It's well deserved. It's well deserved. If someone dares to beat up his own father, what's the big deal about beating up Jia Zhang? It's over. Things are really going to change in the lower house. Tusk, it hurts just looking at it. But it's what you deserve. SHH, keep your voice down. He Yushui was still standing there, with his head down, his thin shoulders shaking violently due to sobbing. He Waiguo shook off the ants who were pulling him and strode up to He Yushui. The closer you are, the clearer you can see. The child was really thin and unrecognizable, with skin and bones all around, a sallow complexion and lifeless hair. Long-term malnutrition and fear left deep marks on her. The anger that arose in He Waiguo's heart because of teaching Jia Zhang a lesson was instantly replaced by a heavier heartache, which made him feel uncomfortable. Feeling the tall figure of her elder brother looming over her, He Yushui was so frightened that her whole body froze and her cries were choked. She subconsciously tried to step back, but her feet seemed to be nailed to the ground. She didn't dare to look up, but just stared at her worn cloth shoes and twisted the corners of her clothes that were washed white with her fingers. He Waiguo frowned as he looked at her frightened appearance. This girl's problem is more serious than he thought. Growing up in such an oppressive and bullying environment for a long time, inferiority, cowardice, and extreme lack of security have been engraved in my bones. Seeing that she kept her head down, He Waiguo took the initiative to speak, lowering his voice. Yushui, what's wrong? You didn't even call out to your brother when you saw him. He Yushui trembled again. She finally mustered up the courage and raised her head very slowly. With tears in the corners of her eyes, she cried out in sobs, Big brother. Chapter 10, Destroying Growth and Encouraging Growth. Looking at He Yushui's panic-stricken look, He Waiguo felt sad. He stretched out his arms and gently embraced his thin and frail sister. Rainwater, don't cry. Big brother is back. Even if the sky falls, I'll have you to hold it up. If you have anything to say, tell your brother. This sudden hug was like a warm current that suddenly broke through He Yushui's heart. Her whole body stiffened at first, and then the grievances that had been suppressed for too long were suddenly released. Wow. He Yushui could no longer control herself, buried her face in He Waiguo's chest, and burst into tears. The crying was heartbreaking, as if she was crying out all the pain she had suffered over the years. His thin body was shaking violently with sobs, and he could hardly breathe. She felt like she was dreaming. This big brother who only existed in terrifying rumors, this big brother she didn't dare to look forward to. The embrace at this moment is so warm. This feeling of being protected and having a backer was so unfamiliar that it made her sad. She almost forgot what it felt like to feel at ease. But deep down in her heart, the little girl who was curled up in the corner and was used to being hurt was still trembling. She is afraid. I'm afraid this warmth is just a flash in the pan. They were afraid that their eldest brother's protection was just an appearance. They were afraid. Afraid that their eldest brother would eventually become as cruel and ruthless as the rumors said, and would drive them out and take away their only house. Thinking of this, her crying became even more miserable and desperate. He Waiguo had no idea what kind of earth-shaking struggle his sister was going through in her heart. He just felt that the military uniform on his chest was quickly soaked by the hot tears, and the body in his arms was light, as if it could be blown away by a gust of wind. He said nothing, but just hugged her tightly, patting her trembling back with his broad hands. After an unknown amount of time, He Yushui's crying finally subsided. He Waiguo then slowly loosened his arms, held her thin shoulders with both hands, and bent down slightly. Yushui, shouldn't you be in school at this hour? Why are you hanging around in the alley? He Yushui was startled by his question, and subconsciously avoided his gaze. He glanced timidly at Qin Huiru, whose face was pale, and Jia Zhang, who was lying on the ground pretending to be dead. His lips trembled, but he finally closed them tightly, not daring to utter a word. He Waiguo had noticed something was wrong with Qin Huiru a long time ago, starting from her changing expression when Yan Jifeng mentioned the rain in the alley. Seeing my sister like this, I understood even more clearly. He exerted a little force on his hands to steady He Yushui's trembling shoulders. Rain, look at me. What are you afraid of? Big brother is here, the sky won't fall. If you have anything to say, tell it like it is. He Yushui was pinned to the spot by her eldest brother's gaze, and the enormous pressure almost suffocated her. She is afraid. I'm so scared that the Jia family will take crazy revenge after my eldest brother turns around and doesn't care. But she was even more afraid that her elder brother would misunderstand her as a bad kid who skipped school. She was torn between her conscience and her desires. Finally, under the firm gaze of He Waiguo, she managed to squeeze out a mosquito-like voice from her throat. Brother, it's not that I don't want to go to class. It's ... its sister Chin. She said there's a lot of chores to do at home today and a lot of laundry to do. Bang Jang is clamoring to go out and play again. No one is watching. She asked me to help. I just. After He Yushui finished speaking, He Waiguo was furious. In fact, it is a favor among neighbors to help take care of children after school. But you fucking let a child who should be in school skip classes just to babysit your Jia family's child. All the money that Zhuzi worked so hard to save and tightened his belt to support his sister's education was wasted just like that. This is fucking blatant bullying of the He family because they have no one. He Waiguo turned around suddenly, his cold eyes scraped across Chin Hueru's pale face like a knife, and his fists clenched so hard that they made a creaking sound. If Chin Hueru hadn't been pregnant, he would have wanted to slap the woman twice. He took a deep breath, suppressed his boiling anger, turned back to look at He Yushui, and said in a serious tone, "She asked you to bring it, so you brought it. Yushui, your second brother pays for your tuition, so that you can learn knowledge. You also know how hard it is for him to earn that little money, right? If you don't go to school today, won't the money he spent on you be thrown into the water in vain? Knowledge is something that no one can take away from you once you have acquired it in your head." He Yushui looked at the suppressed anger and pain in his elder brother's eyes, feeling wronged and afraid, and whispered, "Brother, I don't want to stay home to take care of the kids either. I want to go to school." I also rejected it at first. Her voice became lower and lower, with a crying tone. "Yes, it's my second brother. My second brother advised me that neighbors should help each other if they can and look after each other. That's why I agreed. This damn idiot." He Waiguo was so angry that his liver hurt. He originally thought that He Yuzhu was just a simple bootlicker, but he didn't expect that he didn't even care about his own sister. It is good, very good. Thousands of ways to deal with Sha Zhu when he comes back have already flashed through his mind. Hang him up and give him a good beating first. What kind of brother is this? He Daqing ran away, and Sha Zhu is the pillar of the family. He is so confused about his own family affairs and doesn't even care about his sister's future, yet he rushes to become a bootlicker for the Jia family. Have you been brainwashed and fooled by Ye Zhanghai's bullshit about neighborly mutual assistance? Through the fused memories, He Waiguo knew that Sha Zhu was not a bad person by nature. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gritted my teeth to support Yu Shui's education and raised her to this age. But this sibling's problems run deep. Sha Zhu was roasted on the fire by the whole yard and was knocked unconscious by Ye Zhanghai's moral stick, which led to a kind of self-sacrificing masochistic tendency. Rainwater, on the other hand, has grown up in grievances and fears and is as cowardly as a frightened bird. It seems that there is still a long way to go to straighten these two crooked trees. He Waiguo looked at He Yushui's sallow face and slowed down his tone. Yushui, this isn't the first time you've been asked to take time off to look after the kids, right? He Yushui nodded timidly, her voice as thin as a thread. Well, yes, it's the fourth time. He Waiguo's face suddenly became so gloomy that water seemed to drip out of it. He suppressed his anger that was rising again and continued to ask. That little bastard Bang Zhang, what was he howling about in the yard just now? He said you hit him. Did you hit him? He actually knew very well that with Yu Shui's temper, she wouldn't dare to do that even if she had 10 times the courage. Sure enough, He Yushui immediately shook her head desperately, tears welling up in her eyes again. No, brother, I really didn't hit him. He's always like this. Every time I take him out, he asks for this and that. If I don't have money to buy them, he'll cry and he'll roll around on the ground. He says he'll come back and accuse me of beating him, that I bullied him. The sound of rain is full of grievance and helplessness. Bullshit. When Jia Zhang, who was lying on the ground, heard this, she screamed like a cat whose tail was stepped on with her pig-headed face. You damned little bitch. How dare you falsely accuse my grandson? My Bangjang is the best. He never lies. It must be you, the loser, who refuses to admit his guilt after being beaten. You. Bam! Jia Zhang's subsequent words were completely interrupted by a heavy muffled sound and a shrill scream. He Waiguo couldn't stand it any longer and kicked him. The kick landed right on Jia Zhang's plump waist and hips. The force was so great that the short and fat body was kicked on the ground and rolled several times, stopping only when it hit the corner of the wall. What? Jia Zhang curled up into a ball and fainted instantly. He Waiguo stopped looking at the puddle of mud that was Jia Zhang and turned back to He Yushui. He looked at his sister's eyes, which were still filled with fear and grievance, and said word by word. Rainwater, tell me, do you hate stick terriers? He Yushui was frightened by the thundering kick from his elder brother just now. But when he heard this question, the long-accumulated resentment finally broke through his fear. She nodded vigorously, tears rolling down her cheeks, her voice trembling with a sense of desperation. Brother, I hate him. I really, really hate him. I've never seen such a bad kid. Why is he so bad? Every time I take him with me, I'm always so careful. But he always frames me. I always get scolded. How can there be such a child? Okay, this is what He Waiguo was waiting for. He had never had any good feelings towards that little bastard Bang Jang. He wanted to use this opportunity to change the cowardice in this girl. He stared into He Yushui's eyes and gave an unquestionable command. Rainwater, you, now. Go over there, slap my stick twice. Aren't you fed up with him? Don't you hate him for framing you? Go, do it, slap him hard. Boom, He Yushui was struck by lightning and froze completely. My mind is blank. The idea of beating the stick had crossed her mind countless times. Every time she felt wronged and hid under the quilt crying, she fantasized about beating that little devil up. But when this opportunity presented itself, she was instantly overwhelmed by a huge fear. Her body was shaking uncontrollably and her fingers were cold. She is afraid. Afraid of Jia Zhang's murderous gaze, afraid of Qin Hueru's tears, afraid of silly brother's reproach, afraid of the whole courtyard's pointing fingers. More than 10 years of cowardice, like heavy shackles, firmly locked her hands and feet. He Waiguo looked at his sister, who wanted to move but didn't dare to, and whose face was as pale as paper. I feel both distressed and angry at him for not fighting back. I feel sorry for the suffering she has endured over the years, and I'm angry that even her courage to resist has been worn away. He made up his mind that even if it meant forcing things to grow faster, he would force this crooked seedling to grow straight. He Waiguo's eyes suddenly became more fierce, and his voice became deeper. Rainwater, listen to me, if you don't go up and slap him twice today. He paused and spoke each word with great emphasis, hitting He Yushui's heart. I will slap you. You choose, fan or not. Chapter 11, Entering the House. He Waiguo's words carried an unquestionable pressure. But He Yushui was still nailed to the spot like a wooden stake, his body stiff and his face as pale as paper. No one knows what she has been through. He was framed again and again, faced the insults and beatings from Jia Zhang again and again, and swallowed all the grievances alone amid Qin Hueru's tears and Sha Ji's persuasion of forget it, we are neighbors. Past experience told her that resistance was useless. It will only bring about more crazy revenge. No one in the family can or dares to support her to the end. Silly guy only knows how to smooth things over. As for the aggressive big brother in front of him, although his reputation for cruelty is well known. But just now, Yan Bugui in the front yard clearly said that the eldest brother came back to steal the house. What if Big Brother stood up for her today and then turned around and kicked her and silly brother out of the house and never cared about them again? At that time, she will face the Jia family's intensified revenge alone. What should she do? The huge fear and despair made her dare not move at all. He Waiguo looked at his sister's cowardly appearance and felt really disappointed in her. He could roughly guess what He Yushui was thinking, but he had to pass this level today. Even if we have to use drastic measures, we have to straighten the rain's spine. His eyes sharpened and his voice suddenly rose. Rainwater. Big brother, say it one last time. He held up 3 fingers. I'll count to 3 if you don't hit him. I'm going to hit you. 3. Yushui was shocked all over. The stick-beating joke is about fear of Jia family's revenge. If you don't hit me, big brother will hit me right away. She saw how fiercely her elder brother beat Jia Zhangxi. 2. Waiguo's voice came again, pressing her so hard that she couldn't breathe. The eldest brother's eyes were sharp, and there was no trace of joking in his expression. She recalled the rumors about her eldest brother. This eldest brother was a real bastard. He would really hit her. Compared to the possible revenge from the Jia family in the future, the slap from the eldest brother in front of him was more terrifying and more imminent. 1. I'll fight, Yushui screamed with tears in her eyes. A feeling of despair spread in her heart. Let the Jia family take revenge in the future. Anyway, she is used to being bullied. What difference does it make if it happens a day earlier or later? If you don't do what Big Brother says now, you will be beaten immediately. She turned around suddenly and rushed to Bang Zhang in a few steps. The stick dog seemed to sense danger and pouted its little mouth as if it was about to howl. Yushui looked at Bang Zhang's hateful face. She gritted her teeth and raised her hand. Snapped. 2 slaps, not particularly loud, landed hard on Bang Zhang's little face. In the end, Yushui didn't dare to use too much strength. The stem of the stick was too small, and she was afraid of breaking it. That old hag, Jia Zhang, will definitely take the opportunity to blackmail me and ask for an exorbitant amount of money. She didn't want to cause trouble for her silly brother, and she didn't want to make the already difficult situation of her family even worse. Bang Zhang was completely confused. His little face felt burning with pain, and he was stunned for 2 seconds with his mouth open. Wow! He howled loudly. His face was covered with tears and snot. In the past, he always falsely accused Yushui of beating him, but today, he was really beaten. Bang Zhang, who was over 3 years old, felt extremely wronged and as if the sky was falling. Wua, it hurts. Grandma, it hurts. Mom, she hit me. Wah, however, his signature howl had just begun when it was abruptly cut off by a cold gaze. Waiguo just stood there, his eyes fixed on Bang Zhang. Little boy, try howling again. You've been a bad boy since you were little, always telling lies. It's your mother's fault. You didn't get enough spankings. Waiguo shouted twice, and Bang Zhang's crying stopped abruptly. He opened his eyes wide in horror, looking at Waiguo's terrifying eyes. His little body trembled, but he dared not howl again. The entire middle courtyard was in complete silence. Everyone was stunned by this scene, with only one thought left in their minds. Holy crap, Shaju's elder brother is truly awesome. I'm not kidding, impressed. At the same time, everyone silently drew a clear red line in their hearts. Never, ever, ever mess with Yushui from now on. Her elder brother is really protective of his son. The stick is so small that if someone bullies his sister, he can let his sister fight back with her own hands. If these people dare to touch the rain, maybe it will be Waiguo who takes action at that time. This big brother is really ruthless. More importantly, he doesn't care who the other person is. When you encounter this kind of living devil, what else can you do except avoid him? Several middle-aged women in charge exchanged glances with shock and helplessness written all over their faces. They really didn't expect that this bastard Waiguo had been away fighting for more than 10 years, and not only did he not become more restrained when he came back, but his temper became even more explosive and he became more unruly. No rules at all, Waiguo ignored all the different looks and thoughts. He reached out and gently patted Yushui's still trembling shoulders, and his voice softened. Okay, Rain, stop standing there. Let's go home. Yushui was still immersed in the huge shock and confusion brought by the 2 slaps just now. He nodded subconsciously and obediently led Waiguo towards the 2 main rooms of the He family. When I pushed open the door of Sha Zhu's room, a turbid smell mixed with sweat and grease hit me in the face. Waiguo paused and frowned instantly. The scene before him made him unable to believe his eyes. How can this be a house for people to live in? Calling it a pigsty is an exaggeration. Dirty clothes and smelly socks were scattered all over the place, thrown carelessly in the corner. This environment. He Waiguo felt like he would suffocate if he stayed for another second. How could this damn fool be so sloppy? It completely refreshed his three views. He had made up his mind that he would beat this idiot Zhu first when he came back, and then ask him to clean up the house according to military standards. If he didn't clean it well, he would beat him again. He just doesn't believe that no good person can be produced under the golden stick. He Waiguo couldn't stay here any longer, so he said to the rain, "Go to your room." Yu Shui nodded and led her brother to the small ear room where she lived. Pushing the door open, it's like two completely different worlds. Although it is also simple, it is kept clean and tidy. The bed is made flat and the quilt is folded neatly. The floor was swept and a small desk was wiped clean to a shine. Textbooks and stationery were placed on it, neatly arranged. There was no disgusting smell in the air. He Waiguo looked at the sharp contrast and frowned even deeper. Could it be that this rain really has the ungrateful nature as described in other novels? He turned to look at He Yushui. His tone was clearly puzzled. "Yushui, your second brother. Even if he's a little confused, he's always been nice to you, right? He paid for your education and raised you. But look at his room, what a mess it is. It's like a pigsty. You keep your room so clean and tidy, but didn't you think of cleaning up your second brother's too?" He Yushui raised her head. Her little face instantly filled with grievance, and her eyes turned red again. She hurriedly explained, her voice filled with urgency. "Big brother, it's not that I don't want to help second brother clean up. I have cleaned it up, but my second brother said I don't need to worry about it. He said, Sister Chin, said she would find time to come and help him clean up, and told me not to interfere. So that's why He Waiguo finally understood. It turns out it's all that dog's fault. Very good, silly. You're going to get 2 beatings now. Chapter 12. Silly Zhu, this bastard. He Yushui was really afraid of this big brother who suddenly appeared. She always kept in mind what Yan Bugui said. She was really afraid that her elder brother would come back to steal the house. The eldest brother's notoriety is even more well-known. But no matter how scared she is, he is still her elder brother. The faint sense of closeness in her blood gave her immense courage. She raised her head timidly and asked in a low voice, "Brother, have you eaten?" After asking this, He Waiguo was actually a little hungry. He had just drunk a bowl of porridge, which was like he hadn't eaten anything. However, he didn't intend to tell others about his hospitalization, so he just made up an excuse. "Not yet. I took the train all day, and then came back to go to the street office to register my residence. I've been so busy until now that I haven't had time to eat a single bite." When He Yushui heard this, he quickly said, "Then, big brother, wait for me." She turned and ran to her small bed, squatted down, fumbled in an inconspicuous corner at the foot of the bed, and carefully took out a small cloth bag. She untied the cloth bag, revealing 2 dark, shriveled and hard steamed buns. She held it in both hands and handed it to He Waiguo, her voice as soft as a mosquito's. "Brother, I'm sorry, there's nothing else at home, just. This is all I have left." He Waiguo took it and looked at it. His heart sank suddenly. How can this be called steamed bread? The gray surface is covered with spots of mold and feels hard and rough to the touch. Can this thing be eaten? He looked at He Yushui with complicated eyes, full of disbelief. "Rainwater, you usually eat this." He couldn't imagine that his own sister was so skinny that she had to rely on such moldy food to fill her stomach every day. He Yushui felt uncomfortable when he looked at her. She twisted the corner of her clothes, which had been washed white, with her fingers and lowered her head even more. She nodded subconsciously at first, then seemed to remember something, shook her head hurriedly, and explained incoherently. No, big brother, sometimes second brother will also make something delicious for me. Sometimes." He Waiguo stared at her sallow little face and sunken eye sockets, and his voice sank. "Sometimes this may only happen once in 1,000 years. Rainwater." He Waiguo suppressed his anger and tried to keep his voice steady. "Tell me the truth. Zhuzi's salary isn't bad, and the rations you two have are enough to eat. He works as a cook in the cafeteria, so he can still bring in some food to supplement your income. How could you be so hungry?" He Yushui's eyes instantly turned red again when he asked her this. Tears welled up in her eyes, and her voice was filled with deep grievance and sobs. "Big brother is a great uncle. The eldest uncle said that the Jia family is large, and Grandma Jia has a rural household registration, so there is no quota. The stocks are. They're at their edible peak. Jia Dongsu can't support them by working alone. Let us help. She sniffed and tears finally fell. Second brother. The lunch box that second brother brought back was often taken away by Sister Chin as soon as he entered the courtyard. It's said to be for Bangtang's health. I have to hide all the food at home, otherwise, that little Bangjang will come in and steal it all. She raised her tearful eyes and looked at He Waiguo, full of helplessness and bitterness. At home right now, there's really nothing to eat. Boom, He Waiguo only felt his blood pressure soaring rapidly. It is worthy of being called the courtyard full of birds. The Jia family's pack of vampires. They're sucking blood from the He brothers and sisters. Suck with confidence. How can you survive by storing moldy steamed bread when you can't even get enough rainwater? And Yi Zhonghai, what a great and moral master. He was generous with other people's money, using Sha Zhu's lunchbox and He Yushui's rations to fill the bottomless pit of the Jia family. The one who made him most angry was Sha Zhu. This idiot. What a fool. Even after being sold, he still helps others count money. His own sister was starving to the point of being skin and bones, but he was so eager to give her a lunch box. The house is as dirty as a pigsty, and they even say Chin Hueru will come to clean it up. She's as stupid as a pig. Is his brain full of shit? He Waiguo's chest heaved violently, and his fists were clenched so tightly that they made a crackling sound. Silly column, this bastard. When this bastard comes back, I will hang you up and beat you so hard that even your own mother won't recognize you. Otherwise, I will take your surname. He took several deep breaths before he managed to suppress the urge to run away on the spot. His eyes fell on He Yushui's thin shoulders, which were trembling slightly due to crying, and his heart was filled with heavy heartache and pity. Rainwater, he said softly, are you hungry too? He Yushui subconsciously wanted to shake her head to deny it, but her stomach made an extremely unacceptable rumbling sound at this moment. Her little face turned red instantly, she lowered her head in shame, bit her lips tightly, and stubbornly refused to admit it. Seeing this look, He Waiguo's heart was broken. Go. He no longer hesitated and took He Yushui's cold little hand. Yushui, brother will take you out for dinner. He Yushui was pulled by him, but his body was stiffly nailed to the spot and did not move. He Waiguo was a little puzzled and looked back at her. Let's go, there's nothing at home, let's go out and eat. What puzzled him was that instead of a trace of joy on He Yushui's face, a greater fear suddenly surged up, and tears fell like beads with broken strings. This completely confused He Waiguo. I'm just having a meal, why are you crying again? He quickly squatted down and asked in a soft voice. Sister, what's wrong with you? Tell me, it's just a meal. Why are you crying? He Yushui sobbed, raised her tearful face, and looked at He Waiguo. Her eyes were filled with despair and a ridiculous fear, and her voice was trembling. Brother, is this the last meal for execution? Are you going to kick me out of the house just because you invited me to this meal? Is it this way? He Waiguo froze. He looked at his sister's serious and frightened eyes, and an indescribable feeling of bitterness and absurdity surged in his heart. He finally understood. I finally understood the root cause of this girl's alienation, distrust, and cautious testing from the time we met until now. It turns out that they are afraid that he will come back and steal the house. Why would this girl have this idea? I actually associated this meal with the meal before execution. He Waiguo looked at his sister, who was only 13 or 14 years old, skinny and terrified by life, and felt distressed and at a loss whether to laugh or cry. He reached out his hand and gently wiped away the tears on her face with his fingertips. He pinched her fleshy little face and said in a gentler voice than ever before, Silly girl, what are you thinking about all day? He looked at He Yushui's red eyes and said clearly, word by word, I'm your elder brother, my dear elder brother. This house belongs to our He family. It's also the place you and Juzi have guarded all these years. How could I possibly kick you out? He paused and said in a more serious tone, Yushui, listen up. Big brother is back. From now on, I promise that I will make sure you have enough to eat every meal. I will never let you go hungry again, and I will never let anyone bully you. He Waiguo's words left He Yushui stunned. Having enough to eat was still too much of a luxury for her, and she didn't dare to hope for it. What she fears most is being homeless. But when she heard her elder brother say that he would not kick her out, she finally felt relieved. Yushui stared at Waiguo blankly, and the fear in her big, red and swollen eyes faded away little by little. She nodded, and although there were still traces of tears on her face, her tense body visibly relaxed. Seeing her like this, Waiguo stopped talking nonsense. He knew that trust took time to build, and that it would take some events to change this girl's temper. Chapter 13, Stay-Toned Hotel. Soon, Waiguo brought Yushui to the Stay-Toned restaurant at the intersection. There are eye-catching slogans on the wall: serve the people and do not beat customers without reason. Yushui followed Waiguo closely. She had never been to such a place. To her, this place is another distant world. She lowered her head, not daring to look around, and felt like she didn't know where to put her hands and feet. Waiguo found an empty seat in the corner and asked Yushui to sit down. Looking at her nervous and uneasy look, as if she wanted to curl herself up into a ball, Waiguo sighed inwardly. He tried to soften his voice and asked, "Yushui, what do you want to eat? Don't be polite to me. Meat, eggs, whatever you want. All you can eat, I'm rich." Yushui shook his head like a rattle, the sound so soft that it was almost inaudible. "Brother, forget it. Forget it, it's too expensive, let's go home." When she thought about how much money it would cost to eat out, she felt heartbroken. That much money was enough for her to eat steamed buns for a long time. Waiguo knew that this girl would not be able to change in a short time. "I am afraid of being poor and hungry." He said it differently. "Yushui, look, I haven't eaten for a day and my stomach is growling with hunger. Just think of it as accompanying me to eat, okay? You sit down, I'll go order the food." After saying that, without waiting for Yushui to refuse, he strode towards the ordering window. There was a small blackboard hanging above the window, with the names of the dishes served today written in chalk: stir-fried lamb with green onions, scrambled eggs with tomatoes, stir-fried cabbage, braised pork, limited quantity, tofu soup, noodles with soybean paste, and rice. A waitress in a white apron and with a blank expression sat behind the window, eating sunflower seeds out of boredom. Waiguo took a quick look and spoke directly. "Comrade, I want a plate of stir-fried lamb with green onions, a plate of scrambled eggs with tomatoes, a plate of tofu soup, and 2 bowls of noodles with soybean paste." The waiter didn't even raise his eyelids and scribbled a few words on the list. "Do you have any tickets?" "No ticket," Waiguo answered bluntly. "No tickets." The waiter then glanced at him, his tone a bit businesslike and distant. "If you don't have a ticket, stir-fried lamb with scallions is 3.20 yuan, scrambled eggs with tomatoes is 1.50 yuan, tofu soup is 80 yuan, and 2 bowls of noodles with soybean paste are 80 yuan. That's 6.43 yuan in total. Give me 6.40 yuan." These days, it is normal for stay-toned restaurants to charge extra fees if there are no tickets. Waiguo took out the money without saying a word, counted out 6 yuan and 4 cents, and handed it over. This little money is nothing to him. After 10 years of military service, his pockets were fairly full from his retirement pay and the allowances he had saved. The waiter took the money and tore off a receipt for him. "Just sit and wait. I'll call you when it's ready. Come and get it yourself." Waiguo nodded and returned to his seat with the receipt. When Yushui saw him coming back, he quickly whispered, "Brother, this is really too expensive. Let's go home, I'm not hungry." She felt so heartbroken when she saw the money her elder brother took out. Waiguo sat down opposite her, looking at his sister's expression of worrying about his money. He felt both amused and sad. "Hey, you little girl. It's not your money, it's my treat, what are you afraid of?" Yushui's thoughts were completely different from his. She was used to living a tight life, spending every penny carefully, and was traumatized by hunger. She looked at the older brother who had just returned and was wearing an old military uniform and mustered up her courage. "Brother, you just got discharged from the army and don't have a job, so you need to be frugal with your money. What if we run out of money later? Life will be difficult." She was young and inexperienced, and she thought that her brother, who had just returned from the army, must be like those unemployed young people, having to ask for a job everywhere. In her opinion, it was a stroke of luck that silly brother could work in the steel mill. She said eagerly, "Brother, this job is so hard. I heard from people in the hospital that jobs now require waiting in line, and you also have to. You have to pay for it. Brother, how about you use this money to buy a job? In her simple little head, having a job is the greatest security. Only with a job can she get a salary, a fixed amount of food, and survive. Brother, you shouldn't waste this money on eating. Waiguo was about to explain it to her in detail when the waiter's voice came from the window. Stir-fried lamb with green onions, scrambled eggs with tomatoes, tofu soup, and 2 bowls of noodles with soybean paste. Ready, serve. Coming. Waiguo immediately stood up and hurried over to bring the hot meal. When 4 dishes and 2 bowls of noodles were placed on the table, Yushui's eyes widened instantly. Her little mouth was slightly open, and she held her breath. Oily and fragrant stir-fried lamb with green onions, scrambled eggs with tomatoes and a thick broth, tofu soup with chopped green onions and oil, and those 2 big bowls of fried noodles with diced meat and rich sauce. These delicious meals were like a scene from another world to her. She couldn't remember the last time she had seen such a sumptuous meal. When I was very young, my father was still at home. Our family was relatively well off, and we could even have some meat on the dinner table. But ever since Dacheng ran away with someone, the family's life has fallen into a slump. In recent years, let alone meat, being able to fill my stomach and not go hungry is the biggest luxury. Everything before my eyes seems so beautiful that it seems unreal. She didn't even dare to reach out to touch the chopsticks, for fear that her beautiful dream would be shattered. Waiguo saw it and felt pain in his heart. Without saying a word, he picked up the empty bowl in front of Yushui, picked up a large chopstick of stir-fried lamb with green onions, and scooped a few spoonfuls of scrambled eggs with tomatoes on top, piling it up. He gently pushed the bowl of food piled like a mountain in front of Yushui. Eat. His voice was gentle, and his eyes were full of heartache and encouragement. Stop imagining it. I have a job, your big brother. Working as a driver in the food factory's transport team. 74 yuan a month. You can't go broke even if you treat me to 10 meals like this. Don't worry. Follow me from now on, and I'll make sure you have enough to eat every day. I'll support you. Boom, $74. Yushui only felt a buzzing in his head as if he was hit by a sledgehammer. She was completely confused. She looked at her elder brother foolishly, with her little mouth slightly open, unable to close for a long time. $74? What kind of astronomical figure is this? Shaji works as a cook in a steel rolling mill. He is now at level 10 and earns only 29 yuan a month. The main job of the big brother is still a driver, which is the most respectable and popular golden rice bowl among the 8 members. Much better than the chef. Big brother is so capable. Then what the eldest brother said just now about not kicking her and the silly brother out must be true. The heavy stone in her heart fell, and she began to eat carefully. Seeing that the little girl had let go of her grudges, Waiguo spoke curiously. Girl, why do you think I would kick you and Juzi out? When did Big Brother ever say that? After hearing what Waiguo said, the little girl felt a little embarrassed, knowing that she had misunderstood her brother. He spoke cautiously. Big Brother, it's third uncle. Third uncle said that you came back to rob the house and drive me and second brother out. Damn Yan Laoxi, Waiguo cursed directly. After finishing the job, he said to Yushui, Don't worry, Yushui, Big Brother won't fight with you for the house. Big Brother will only stay for 2 months and then move out. When Yushui heard what Waiguo said, he stopped eating instantly. Tears welled up in her eyes. Brother, don't you want me again? Oops, Waiguo forgot about this again. This sister is too insecure, he quickly said. Why would Big Brother not want you? Although our main house is not small, it is really not convenient for me and Juzi to live in the same house. Big Brother's company has allocated him an apartment. It's a tube-shaped building. It has heating. Big Brother will move in once the building is finished. But here he hastened to add, the key is issued, I will take you to see it. If you like, you can come and live here anytime. Don't worry, Big Brother will definitely take care of you when he comes back. Chapter 14, It's great to have an older brother. Yushui felt warm in her heart when she heard her elder brother invite her to live in the tube-shaped building in the future. Although she probably won't go, because she thinks living in a courtyard house is nice. But what Big Brother said is more important than anything else. This means that the eldest brother accepted her and did not despise her as a burden. Since she was a child, what she feared most was being abandoned. This feeling of being accepted and taken under someone's wing is both strange and warm. Although the eldest brother has only been back for a short time, she can clearly feel that the eldest brother and the second brother are two completely different people. The second brother is soft-hearted and even more easily influenced. He is easily manipulated by others and cannot protect her. And the eldest brother, thinking of the ferocity with which his elder brother slapped and kicked Jia Zhang and forced him to fight with a stick, Yushui felt inexplicably at ease. With Big Brother around, no one will dare to bully her in the future. A faint smile crept onto her little face. This scene was also discovered by He Waiguo. This was the first time he saw such a relaxed smile on Yushui's face since he came back. "Rainwater," He Waiguo joked. "What are you laughing about? Tell me." Yushui blushed when her elder brother pointed it out, and she quickly lowered her head and waved her hands in panic. "Number nothing. Big Brother ... it's really nothing." There was an unconcealable lightness in his voice. Seeing her like this, He Waiguo didn't ask any further questions. His eyes fell on the old clothes she was wearing, which were washed white and patched up, and his brows frowned again. He thought for a moment and said, "Yushui, tomorrow is Saturday, right?" "Yeah," Yushui nodded. "That's perfect," He Waiguo decided. "Tomorrow I'll take you to the department store to buy new clothes. Look at your clothes, how ripped are they? The patches are almost covering up the original fabric." "What?" "No, Big Brother." Yushui shook his head quickly when he heard it. No need to buy, I can still wear these clothes." "Really? Don't waste your money," she explained hurriedly, her face full of seriousness and worry. "Brother, you just came back. The money, you have to keep it. You still need to get married in the future. I heard from the aunties in the courtyard that marrying a wife now requires 3 turns and 1 ring, which is very expensive. Big Brother, please don't spend it on me." Seeing his sister's sensible look, who was clearly living a hard life but still thinking about his future, He Waiguo felt both warm and bitter in his heart. This child is not selfish, which is good. But He Waiguo had been a soldier for so many years, and with the demobilization pay and allowances, his pockets were still quite full. "I also got a job as a food factory driver, with a monthly salary of 74 yuan, which is more than enough to support my younger sister. Getting married is a matter for the future. The most important thing right now is to let this sister who has suffered so much at least live the life that an ordinary girl should have." Seeing how thin she is and how ragged her clothes are, how could he, as the eldest brother, feel good? As for why you should buy it tomorrow, it's simple. He doesn't have a ticket. I have to go to the old battalion commander Zhou Zhenbang tomorrow to think of a way to deal with cloth coupons and cotton coupons. Having a ticket when buying things can save you a lot of money and is also convenient. He Waiguo was about to say a few more words of advice when Yushui suddenly remembered something more important and spoke anxiously. "Brother, you really don't need to buy clothes. You should go buy something to wash your face and brush your teeth, and a quilt. There are no extra quilts at home, otherwise you would have nothing to cover yourself with at night." Yushui is now worried about what will happen at night. There are really no extra quilts at home. If he doesn't buy these, where will his brothers sleep? He Waiguo had actually thought about this. Given his family's current situation, if he were to stay, he would definitely have to live in the same house with Shaju. But the house was as messy as a pigsty, and Shaju couldn't live in it unless he cleaned it up. Besides, there is only one bed in the room. It is impossible for him to share a bed with Shaju, right? So the best place to go today is still the guest house. Wait for Shaju to come back and clean up the house. He can buy a bed and quilt tomorrow and move in. He looked at the rain and said, "Don't worry about that. Big Brother, I'm staying at the guest house tonight. Your second brother's room is like a pigsty. It's uninhabitable unless it's cleaned up. Wait until he comes back and cleans it up. I'll move in tomorrow." Hearing that He Waiguo disliked the dirty house, she quickly said, "Brother, I'll go back and clean up right after we finish eating. I'll make sure it's spotless, so you don't have to spend that money." Seriously, staying in a guest house isn't cheap. He Waiguo understood what she meant and interrupted her directly. "Yushui, stop it. Your second brother has to clean up his own room. I just want him to know that no one should clean up his mess for him." From now on, he has to clean up his own mess. You are not allowed to help him clean up, do you hear me? Yushui was startled by his elder brother's harsh tone, and subconsciously shrank his neck and responded in a low voice. Oh, I heard it. But I was worried about my second brother. It's over, it's over. Now that my second brother is back, I'm afraid he's going to suffer a great punishment. Big brother's temper. She could only pray silently in her heart, second brother, I wish you good luck. The brother and sister stopped talking and focused on eating. The aroma of the food and the ample portion made Yushui, who was used to being hungry, eat it with extra relish. Although she tried her best to remain polite, her body's instinct made her eat a little more than usual. The plates and bowls on the table were finally scraped clean. After dinner, we walked out of the restaurant. The cool breeze of the late autumn evening blew on Yushui's face, but he felt warm all over. His stomach felt full for the first time in a long time, and he felt much more at ease. She subconsciously straightened her back and no longer kept her head down and stared at her toes when she walked as she used to. Something called peace of mind quietly grew in her thin body. Waiguo keenly noticed the subtle changes in his sister. Although he was still thin, the timid aura in him seemed to have faded a little. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Take it slow. The ice is 3 feet thick, and it didn't freeze overnight. It would be great if there is some improvement. As soon as the two of them walked to the gate of the courtyard, they ran into Yan Jifeng. Yan Jifeng is about the same age as Yushui, and it was he who ran to the alley to call Yushui back today. Seeing Waiguo and Yushui coming back from outside, Yan Jifeng was stunned for a moment. Then he mustered up the courage and greeted Waiguo. Brother Yushui, are you guys out? Waiguo didn't have a deep impression of the children in the courtyard, but Yan Jifeng helped today, and his attitude was quite gentle. Well, I took Yushui out for a meal. There was no cooking at home. Ah, you guys went to a restaurant. Yan Jifeng's eyes lit up instantly. His voice was filled with envy. Eat out. That was something he only dared to think about in his dreams. His family eats pickled vegetable and steamed buns for every meal, and they are lucky to be able to have enough to eat. Eating out? That's a luxury I can't even think of. Waiguo looked at his exaggerated reaction and was a little amused. He nodded and said, yes, let's go to a restaurant. After receiving a positive answer, Yan Jifeng's face was filled with envy. He swallowed and muttered softly. When I can have a meal in a restaurant? Yushui stood beside his elder brother and clearly saw the undisguised envy in Yan Jifeng's eyes. This feeling of being envied is too unfamiliar to her. From childhood to adulthood, she has always had nothing but envy of others in the courtyard. At this moment, looking at Yan Jifeng's envious eyes, Yushui felt a sense of pride that he had never felt before, quietly rising in his heart. It's great to have a big brother. Chapter 15, The Fool Who Was Fooled. At 5:30 in the afternoon, workers walked out of the steel mill in groups of 3 or 4. Yushu was walking unsteadily in the crowd, carrying an aluminum lunchbox and a net bag on his back. The lunchbox was heavy, and inside it were some delicious dishes he had specially reserved for today. He planned to take some greasy braised pork and some scrambled eggs back home to nourish Yushui, who was too thin. Walking beside him were Jia Dongsu and Yi Zhonghai. Jia Dongsu had already caught a glimpse of the net bag behind Sha Zhu from the corner of his eye, and his mind immediately started to work on it. But as a grown man, he couldn't do such a thing as asking for a lunchbox directly. This kind of thing has always been the specialty of his wife Qin Huiru. He knew very well that Sha Zhu had some inexplicable feelings towards his wife. But he didn't care, not because he was magnanimous. But Sha Zhu looks old and sloppy, and Qin Huiru doesn't like people like Sha Zhu at all. If it weren't for Sha Zhu's little profit and easy tricks, who would bother with him? Over the years, the Jia family has been biting off the fat piece of meat called Sha Zhu. With his master Yi Zhonghai encouraging him, this matter is basically a sure thing. Thinking of this, Jia Dongsu cleared his throat and a worried look appeared on his face. Zhu Zai, it's almost the 25th, it's time to get your quota back. Look at your quota, can you spare me 10 kilograms? Don't worry, I will definitely return it to you when the time comes. He sighed heavily, his tone was helpless. You know my family's situation. Alas, my mom has a rural household registration, so she doesn't have a ration. Your sister-in-law's belly is getting bigger and bigger, and she needs nutrition right now. My salary alone is not enough to make ends meet. As he spoke, he secretly glanced at Sha Zhu's reaction. When Sha Zhu heard this, he frowned. 10 kilograms is not a small amount. He subconsciously wanted to refuse. The girl Yu Shui was as thin as a bamboo pole, and he felt distressed just looking at her. This month, he wants to grit his teeth and get some more good stuff to make up for the rainwater. Brother Dongsu, I'm afraid this won't work. Sha Zhu shook his head, his tone a little embarrassed. Yu Shui is too thin. It makes me feel bad just looking at her. I really want her to eat better this month. Jia Dongsu cursed Yi Zhonghai in his heart for being stingy, and he quickly glanced at him for help. Yi Zhonghai received the signal and nodded imperceptibly. Jia Dongsu is the person he has chosen to take care of his retirement, so he must help. Otherwise, who can you rely on for your retirement in the future? He immediately put on the air of a lord upholding justice and said to Sha Zhu earnestly, Zhuzai, you can't say that. Who in the hospital doesn't know about the Dongsu family's situation? It's really difficult. There are several people in the family, and they rely on him as a strong laborer. Look at your family again. He patted Sha Zhu's shoulder with a hint of enlightenment. Just you and the rainwater siblings, you both have a quota. Plus, you're the chef in the cafeteria, so if there's a little bit of oil between your fingers, you won't starve. We're neighbors, Dongsu asked, so let's help if we can. Does what you said, Mr. Master, make sense? He looked at Sha Zhu with sharp eyes, which clearly said, if I don't help you, it means you are heartless and unkind. Sha Zhu felt uncomfortable immediately after being labeled as a neighborly helper by Yi Zhonghai and being stared at with scrutinizing and expectant eyes. He looked at Jia Dongsu's bitter and resentful face, and then at Yi Zhonghai's eyes that said, if you don't help, you are unconscious, and the balance in his heart instantly tilted. The words of refusal rolled in his throat for a few times, but he finally swallowed them. He gritted his teeth and said in a muffled voice, okay, Uncle, Brother Dongsu, after I get the ration, I'll give 10 kilograms to Brother Dongsu. Yi Zhonghai immediately showed a satisfied smile on his face and nodded approvingly. Well, Zhuzi, benevolence and righteousness. This is the role model for the young people in our courtyard. Yi Zhonghai's words were like an anesthetic, instantly dispelling a lot of the reluctance in Sha Zhu's heart, and even making him feel a little proud of being recognized. Jia Dongsu also quickly put on a grateful expression. Ouch, Zhuzi, my good brother. Brother, I really don't know how to thank you. You are truly our family's benefactor. Thank you so much. He said this, but he was sneering in his heart. Fools are really easy to fool. After being praised by the two, Sha Zhu's guilt towards Yu Shui seemed to be washed away. The uncle is right, neighbors should help each other. I'm stupid, being a good person is all about being particular. As they were talking, they soon arrived at the gate of number 95 Nanliuagixiang. From a distance, I saw a figure wearing a blue floral shirt, standing outside the courtyard gate looking around. It was Qin Huiru. The reason why she was waiting outside the yard today was because Sha Zhu's vicious elder brother was back. If he were to wait as usual until Sha Zhu entered the middle courtyard before asking for a lunchbox, he would most likely be caught by He Waiguo. It would be nonsense to want a lunchbox at that time. So she waited at the gate of the courtyard in advance. She had to get the lunchbox before Brother Sha Zhu found out. As soon as she saw the three people approaching, Qin Huiru immediately took 2 steps at a time and rushed over to them, putting on a perfect smile on her face. Uncle Dongsu, Zhuzi, you're back. The three nodded. When Sha Zhu saw Qin Huiru, his eyes lit up unconsciously, with a hint of imperceptible flattery and admiration. Qin Huiru saw all of this and felt more at ease. Her eyes quickly swept over the heavy net bag lunchbox behind Sha Zhu. Zhuzai, did you bring back some delicious food again today? Qin Huiru's voice held just the right amount of surprise and envy. When Sha Zhu was asked this question, his little vanity immediately swelled up. He puffed out his chest and said in a nonchalant manner, Hey, we cooks, even though we can't hold the same respect as those office workers, we're still considered one of the top 8, right? Bring some leftovers, and the factory leaders will turn a blind eye. He tried hard to appear capable in front of Qin Huiru. How smart is Qin Huiru? He immediately climbed up the pole, his tone full of compliments. That's right, Zhuzi, who in our hospital wouldn't envy your craftsmanship and work? It's truly a top-notch job. These words were like honey, making Shaju dizzy and feeling as if he was walking lightly. Seeing that the situation was almost heated, Chin Hueru changed the subject, adding a hint of pleading and pity. Zhuzai, I really can't open my mouth today, but at home. Her eyes were slightly red, and she gently stroked her bulging belly with her hand. There's not a single grain of rice left at home. Even the cornmeal is gone. Bangjang is crying with hunger. I'm pregnant now. Even if I don't eat, the baby in my belly needs to eat. Zhuzi, look. Can I take your lunchbox home today to help me out? Her big watery eyes looked at Shaju with endless pleading. Shaju began to struggle in his heart again. He specially left this lunchbox for Yu Shui. Thinking of Yu Shui's frail appearance, he opened his mouth, wanting to refuse. Sister Chin, I want to leave this lunchbox for Yu Shui. Before he finished speaking, Chin Huero interrupted him immediately. That girl Yu Shui has a good brother like you, so why would she be worried about not having anything to eat? Why don't you just cook something for her when you get home? You must have some food stored, right? Zhuzi, just help me out, help the child. Sha Zhu looked at Chin Hueru's pitiful appearance and thought of the child in her belly. The defenses in my heart completely collapsed. The uncle's teaching of mutual help among neighbors, Jia Dongsu's gratitude, and Chin Hueru's pleading. As soon as these things came down, they tied him up tightly. That little bit of guilt towards the rain was once again pushed to the bottom. He thought that at worst he could find another way to get some food for the rain. Alas! Sha Zhu sighed heavily, took off the net lunchbox on his back and handed it to Chin Hueru. Okay, Sister Chin, take it. Chin Hueru took the lunchbox, her heart blossoming with joy, her face full of gratitude. Zhuzi, thank you. I'll always remember your kindness. After saying that, he turned around and walked into the yard with the lunchbox, fearing that Sha Zhu would go back on his word. Sha Zhu looked at Chin Hueru's hurriedly leaving back, feeling empty in his heart, but also a little inexplicably satisfied. He shook his head and comforted himself. It's okay, Yu Shui won't starve. I'll go back and make her a bowl of noodles. He had no idea that the rice jar at home was cleaner than his face. Chapter 16, My Eldest Brother. As soon as Sha Zhu, Jia Dongsu, and Yi Zhonghai stepped into the courtyard, they heard Yan Bugui's voice. Hey, Lao Ye, Zhuzi. Dongsu, are you off work? Yi Zhonghai nodded perfunctorily. Yan Bugui didn't care, he was just watching the show. The He family boss is back, and these three people are all related to him. It's going to be exciting then. He deliberately cleared his throat and said to Sha Zhu, Zhu Zai, third master has some news that I need to tell you right away. Sha Zhu is a little absent-minded. What's the matter, uncle? Tell me. Yan Bugui pushed up his glasses and spoke slowly but clearly. Your elder brother is back. My eldest brother. Sha Zhu was stunned and didn't react for a moment, and repeated the sentence subconsciously. Okay. Yan Bugui nodded vigorously and raised his voice a little. Your elder brother, He Waiguo, is back. Boom, the three words, He Waiguo, were like a thunderclap, striking Sha Zhu and Yi Zhonghai on the head with precision. Sha Zhu froze instantly. The expression on his face froze and his mind went blank. Big brother, he's still alive? Is he really back? After the huge shock, he felt extremely complicated. First of all, ecstasy and excitement. After all, he is his blood-related elder brother. Missing for 10 whole years. No news. His family thought he had died during the chaotic war outside. Many times in the middle of the night, Sha Zhu would recall the scene when his elder brother protected him and the rain when they were little. Outsiders only know that his elder brother He Waiguo is a bastard who has been fighting and lawless since he was a child, and even dares to beat his own father He Daqing to death. But Sha Zhu himself knows best. The eldest brother beat He Daqing back then because He Daqing was obsessed with the White Widow and didn't care about the life or death of him and his sister. The eldest brother is cruel to outsiders, but his protective heart towards him and Yu Shui has never changed. The fact that Sha Zhu had been able to grit his teeth and raise Yu Shui and support her schooling over the years was largely influenced by his elder brother's ruthlessness and sense of responsibility. But he is also really afraid of his big brother. Because He Waiguo has been fighting since he was a child, the move was really ruthless. Sha Zhu has always been a reckless person since he was young. He is fearless and few of the boys in the yard can match him. but in front of his eldest brother, he is like a mouse meeting a cat. That was the result of being beaten since childhood. It was real bloodline suppression. Shaju cheered himself up crazily in his heart. Don't be afraid. He used you. You're 24 now, a grown man, not the little brat you were back then. Can Big Brother still beat you like he did when you were little? Impossible. 10 years have passed, and Big Brother's temper must have improved. Yes, it's definitely getting better. Not afraid, not afraid. However, no matter how he comforted himself, the instinctive fear still made him feel uneasy. At the same time, Yi Zhonghai's face turned pale and blue. He knows better than anyone what he has done in the courtyard over the years, especially how he deliberately tricked Sha Zhu into helping the Jia family. Sha Zhu and his sister lived a very tight life, and Yu Shui was so hungry that he looked pale and thin. A large part of the credit had to be attributed to Yi Zhonghai. But now that bastard He Waiguo is back. If he knew that I had taken such good care of the Jia family with Sha Zhu and his sister over the years, would he let it go? He Waiguo is not as easy to fool as Sha Zhu. That guy is not only good at fighting, but also has a quick mind. I'm afraid I won't be able to keep the fact that I fooled Sha Zhu's secret for too long. He doesn't even know how it will end. Jia Dongsu, who was standing by, keenly noticed the drastic changes in Sha Zhu and Yi Zhonghai's expressions and was filled with confusion. Sha Zhu has an older brother? He has never heard of it. Looking at Sha Zhu's distraught look and Yi Zhonghai's bereaved look, Jia Dongsu disagreed. Are these two people so scared? If Sha Zhu is like this, how good can his elder brother be? He's probably just a stupid big guy with no brains and who's easy to fool. Why be afraid of him? Sha Zhu was in a state of confusion at the moment. He glanced at Yi Zhonghai beside him and said, "Uncle, I'm going back first. I have to go see my big brother." After saying that, without waiting for Yi Zhonghai's response, he walked towards his home in the central courtyard. Sha Zhu walked to the middle courtyard in a daze. He felt extremely nervous at this moment. He stood in the middle of the yard, looking at the two main rooms of his house, took several deep breaths and tried hard to cheer himself up. He Yuju, hold on. You are an adult now. Brother won't hit you, he definitely won't. He just came back and he can't wait to be happy. Yes, be happy, don't be afraid, don't be a coward. After brainwashing himself several times and feeling his heartbeat slow down, he mustered up the courage to walk towards his house. I opened the door of my room, there was no one inside. Okay. Sha Zhu scratched his head. Didn't they say that Big Brother is back? What about people? At this time, a slight noise came from the small room next door where Yu Shui lived. Sha Zhu quickly shouted, "Rain, rain. Second brother, I'm here." Yu Shui's voice came from the ear room, with a bit of timidity and lightness. Brother ... brother is in my room, please come in. Big Brother is in the rain house. Sha Zhu's heart was in his throat again. He took a deep breath, slowly walked to the door of the ear room, and pushed it open with trembling hands. As soon as he walked in, he saw a man in military uniform sitting on a bench. He was very familiar with that look. It was the elder brother he remembered. What's different from when he was a child is that now the eldest brother's face has a bit more firmness and fierceness. And my eldest brother seems to be taller than when he was a child. The three siblings are actually not small in stature because they take after their mother. Zhuzi is at least 1 meter tall. Looking at his elder brother, he is at least 75 cm shorter than him, and his elder brother is also bigger. He had prepared himself mentally, thinking that he wouldn't be scared after seeing his elder brother. After all, he was an adult now, but the reality was completely different from what he had imagined. When he actually saw his elder brother, his calves still cramped. This feeling of blood suppression is really not something that ordinary people can understand. Although he was very scared inside, he was his own brother after all, and he hadn't seen him for 10 years. The longing in his heart finally overcame his fear, and he spoke cautiously. Big ... brother. However, He Waiguo did not respond immediately, mainly because He Waiguo saw the empty net bag behind Sha Zhu at a glance. There was no sign of the lunchbox inside. He Waiguo knew with his butt that it was most likely taken away by Qin Hueru. Although the original owner had deep feelings for his younger brother, he was also brought up with corporal punishment since childhood. In addition, given Sha Zhu's nature as a bootlicker, drastic measures will have to be taken. If I don't give this kid a good beating today, he won't learn his lesson. Chapter 17, Brother, I Was Wrong. He Waiguo glared at Shaju and said, "You still remember that I'm your elder brother." Shaju was so stunned by He Waiguo's words that he couldn't do it anymore. His face was full of confusion. He didn't know why his elder brother was so harsh to him in his first words. Although he was beaten by his elder brother many times when he was a child, his elder brother was not the kind of person who would beat others for no reason, nor would he beat you for no reason. He looked at He Waiguo with some confusion. "Brother, did I do something wrong?" He Waiguo did not explain to him further, but said directly, "Go to Jia's house right now and bring the lunchbox back to me. If you don't bring it back, I'll beat you to death. Do you hear me?" He Waiguo knew very well in his mind that Shaju would not be able to escape the beating today, and he would definitely beat him to death later. But before you pick anyone up, you have to let this idiot get the lunchbox back first. There is no doubt that this lunchbox must have been snatched away by that bitch Chin. He can't control what happened in the past, nor can he change the timeline of the past. But now, the Jia family still wants to take something from their He family, which is not possible. Even if the lunchbox was brought back to feed the dog, it could not be used to feed the Jia family. Shaju looked at his brother in horror. "I just entered the house. How did my brother know that his lunchbox was taken away by Chin? He knew that his elder brother had been smarter than him since childhood, but he never expected that his elder brother could be so foresighted. Seeing that he was still stunned, He Waiguo started to whip him with his belt. "I'm going to count to 3. If you don't get out and bring your lunchbox back within 3, I'm going to whip you right now." He Waiguo had already made up his mind that Shaju had to go and ask for it himself. To be honest, his family doesn't lack that little bit of food. It would only take He Waiguo 2 slaps to ask for it, and he guarantees that the Jia family will hand it over obediently. But as the saying goes, the eldest brother is like a father. What he needs to do now is to guide his younger brothers and sisters onto the right path. You have to do your own things. Seeing He Waiguo unbuckling his belt, Shaju couldn't care less and quickly nodded in agreement. Brother, don't be impulsive, I'll get it right away, I'll get it right away." After saying that, he turned and left the house. When he just left the house, he was actually still struggling inside. These things have already been given away, and now he feels a little embarrassed to take them back. He Yuju is quite open and honest in his way of dealing with people and things. He didn't know why his elder brother was so angry. Wasn't it just a lunch box? Besides, they are all neighbors, so my brother shouldn't be like this. He doesn't understand. But the fear in my heart for He Waiguo really overwhelms everything. Since his elder brother asked him to get it back, he had no other choice. If he didn't get it, he would definitely be beaten when he returned. He walked to the door of Jia's house timidly and knocked. "Brother Dongsu, Sister Chin, are you home?" Chin hurried out when she heard his voice. "What's wrong? Is there something wrong with Juzi?" He Yuju scratched his head and said embarrassedly, "Sister Chin, can you return my lunchbox to me?" I'll definitely get you a bigger one someday, okay? But you must return it to me today, otherwise my brother will really beat me up." Chin witnessed how terrifying that big brother Shaju was this afternoon. He would really start fighting if they had a disagreement. In her opinion, Shaju was actually a bit of a ruffian, but she didn't expect Shaju to be so afraid of his brother. Chin looked at Shaju and said, "Zhu Zai, it's not that I won't return it to you. It's just that we've already eaten it all, and it's gone now." Chin had guessed this result long ago. When she took the lunchbox back just now, she had already taken out everything inside. She knew that Shaju elder brother was back, and things would definitely not be that simple, so she made some extra preparations. Unexpectedly, Shaju actually came to ask for the lunchbox. Shaju was stunned by Chin words and said, "Sister Chin, didn't we just bring this back? You finished it so quickly. You. He didn't finish his words, but the meaning was clear. Chin looked at him and said, "Zhu Zai, I really didn't lie to you. Everyone in my family was starving, so as soon as we brought it back, everyone couldn't help but eat it all. You know the situation in our family. We can hardly get enough to eat, so any delicious food will definitely not last long." After hearing what Chin said, Shaju also looked helpless. He sighed and said, "Then Sister Chin, please return the lunch box to me." Chin nodded. "Okay, Juzi, wait a moment." After saying that, Chin Hueru went back to the house and handed him the lunchbox. Shaju helplessly returned home with the empty lunchbox. As soon as he entered the room, he put the lunchbox on the table and said, "Brother, I got the lunchbox back." He Waiguo could tell at a glance that the lunchbox was empty. "Where's the stuff inside?" Shaju stammered, "Food, food." Sister Chin said she's finished eating. He Waiguo's face was terribly gloomy. In fact, he had guessed this result a long time ago. With Chin Hueru's level, she would definitely be able to fool this idiot. Today he must teach this fool a lesson. He stood up and walked to the door. When he Waiguo passed by Shaju, Shaju could feel for himself how tall his brother was. He was really tall and strong. He really looked smaller in front of his brother, and the feeling of oppression was extreme. However, he Waiguo did not stay beside him for long. Instead, he walked directly to the door, opened it, turned to Yu Shui and said, "Yu Shui, go out first." He Waiguo was really afraid that he would hit too hard and accidentally hurt Yu Shui. This girl is too small and too thin. If she gets hit, it will be the end of her. Does the rain know what's going to happen next? In fact, he had already guessed from his eldest brother's words and reactions today that his second brother would not be able to escape this disaster today. So he stood up and looked at his second brother with some pity. In fact, he wanted to persuade his elder brother, but she didn't dare. In the end, I could only lower my head and walk out. After Yu Shui walked out, he Waiguo closed the door and put the bolt on. After that, he started whipping me with his belt. As soon as Shaju saw this situation, he knew what was going to happen next and quickly said, "Brother, brother, what are you doing?" "No, what did I do? Are you going to hit me again?" Bro, calm down." Shaju is now so frightened that he is incoherent, and his words are illogical. He Waiguo did not stop because of He Yuju's plea for mercy and said, "Why did I hit you? Don't you know what's going on? If you can't figure out why I hit you today, then I'm going to beat you to death today." Shaju's face was full of grievance. He really didn't know what he had done wrong. This big brother wanted to beat him up as soon as he came back, and he really didn't understand. But he was afraid and panicked. He knows how good his elder brother is at beating people. He had been beaten by his elder brother many times since he was a child. He thought that he would not be beaten now that he was this old, but he was completely wrong. Now he is afraid. "Brother, brother, brother. I was wrong. Can you please just talk about it nicely? Don't use force, big brother." However, he Waiguo didn't care about him and just pulled out his belt and hit Shaju. Snapped. The belt made a sound as it hit the outside of Shaju's thigh. Ouch. Shaju let out a heart-wrenching scream. He felt like the belt was digging into his flesh, and he jumped up in pain. He Waiguo acted quickly and ruthlessly. Snapped. 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 He Waiguo, with suppressed anger and disappointment, slapped Shaju on the butt and thighs again and again. Each blow was powerful and merciless. "What? Brother, stop hitting me, it hurts so much." "I helped." Shaju's shrill screams became louder and louder, echoing in the hut. Chapter 18, You Are a Bitch. The noise inside the house soon spread to the yard. Yu Shui stood outside the house, and every time the sound of the belt was heard, her body would tremble. It's so scary, and the sense of immersion is so strong. She could only pray silently for her second brother in her heart. Her eldest brother was really too fierce. Just from the sound, she knew that her second brother was beaten badly. Inside the house, Shaju was beaten and cried. Yes, he was a grown man, the god of war in the courtyard, but he was beaten to tears by his brother. He Waiguo really wanted to kill him. The belt kept whipping him without stopping. Although Shaju was wearing clothes, he knew that his whole body must be covered with marks. But he Waiguo didn't stop just because Shaju was crying. He asked while smoking, "Do you know what you did wrong? Do you know why I hit you?" Shaju had tears in his eyes and looked aggrieved. He really couldn't understand it. Why did this big brother beat himself as soon as he came back? He clearly did nothing wrong. He looked at He Waiguo and cried, "Brother, brother, stop hitting me, okay?" "Brother, what did I do wrong? I just came home and saw you, and you hit me. How can you be like this? Even if you are the eldest brother, you can't fight like this, right?" Seeing that he was still being stubborn, He Waiguo picked up the belt and slapped him a few more times. This time Shaju was completely honest. Brother, I was wrong. I shouldn't have talked back. I was wrong. Stop hitting me." He Waiguo seemed to be tired by now. He didn't even know how many times he had hit Shaju. You have to admit that Sha Zhu is quite resistant to beatings. If an ordinary person had been beaten like that, he would probably be lying on the ground unconscious by now. The fact that this idiot can still howl shows that his physical condition is still good. He Waiguo put the belt on the table, then sat there looking at Sha Zhu. I'm going to take a break. Think about it for a few minutes and see where you went wrong. If you still can't figure it out, I'll keep beating you. I'll beat you until you figure it out today. Sha Zhu was curled up in the corner at this moment, with tears in the corners of his eyes, feeling aggrieved like a baby weighing over 100 pounds. He looked at He Waiguo and said, brother, can you give me some hints? Where did I go wrong? You have to give me some clues, otherwise I really don't know where I went wrong. He Waiguo glared at him fiercely. Seeing Sha Zhu's aggrieved look, He Waiguo felt a little sympathy, but when he thought of Yu Shui's thin appearance and aggrieved and inferior look, he became furious. He stared at Sha Zhu and said, You really don't know where you went wrong. Look at how starving Yu Shui is. He's skin and bones, so thin that a gust of wind could blow him away. Are you blind? What? If you have something, just give it to the family next door. Is the Jia family your father? You can't even support your own sister, and you still care about others. Is this how you act like a brother? Is this what I taught you since you were a child? You brought a lunchbox back, but your sister didn't eat it, so you gave it to someone else. Also, look at how patched up Rainwater is. Your clothes don't look like clothes, and your food doesn't look like food. If I come back later, Rainwater will probably starve you to death in your house. Are you a fucking human? You're just a cook in the steel mill cafeteria, and you've starved your sister to this point. Do you still have the nerve to do that? The more He Waiguo thought about it, the angrier he became. He picked up his belt and started beating him again, smoking and cursing. I'm going to beat you to death, you bastard. He beat and scolded him, whipping him with the belt again and again. At this moment, Sha Zhu finally figured out why his elder brother hit him. He was on his sister's side in his heart, and he could also see that Yu Shui had become so thin. But sometimes he really had no choice, and he had no choice but to be put there by Ye Zhonghai. In fact, he also knew in his heart that a large part of the problem was his own. He is easily influenced and a little vain, and feels that if he doesn't help, he will appear to be disloyal. Sometimes the Rainwater is treated unfairly, but no matter what, it is never starved. He subconsciously felt that he had never been hungry since he started working. The reason why Yu Shui is so thin is that he was too hungry when he was a child, which made it impossible to make up for it when he grew up. So he began to explain, brother, stop hitting me, I really didn't treat the rain badly. That girl Yu Shui, that's because of the loss she suffered when she was a child, and now she can't make it up. I leave something for him at home every day. I always make it for him. I always pay him, I never treat him unfairly. You can't hit me for this. Big brother, stop hitting me. When He Waiguo heard Sha Zhu say that he had left something for Yu Shui at home, he became even angrier and whipped him even harder with his belt. You left something behind. What did you leave behind? A moldy steamed bun. What? Don't you think I don't know? Those steamed buns stored in the rainwater are all moldy. Is this the fucking thing you kept? Sha Zhu was beaten with the belt again and cried for his parents. He quickly said, brother, don't hit me. I left him some white flour buns in my room. I even left some food for him. Sometimes she can make some herself. He Waiguo looked at him and said, go back to your room and take a look. Look, are there any of the things you left? Don't you know that the little bastard Bang Jeng next door stole everything you left? That little bastard Bang Jeng stole something from your room. Don't tell me I didn't know. What else do you have in your room? Yu Shui eats these moldy steamed buns every day, and you still have to hide them. Don't try to argue with me. Yu Shui told me that she always responds to you. What about you? Just because the daughter-in-law of the Jia family next door cries a few words, you've lost your mind. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. You're just greedy for my body, you shameless bastard. I'll beat you to death. You're a fucking young man, but you don't learn from the good things you have. Instead, you just learn those cheap things. Are other people's wives that good? She's a married woman with children. Why are you coveting her? You are a slut. After He Waiguo finished speaking, he swung the belt high up and hit Sha Zhu again and again. Sha Zhu's little trick was exposed, and he felt a little embarrassed. Although he was being beaten to death by his brother at this moment, his brother spoke very loudly. If the news that he likes Qin Huiru gets out now, will Sha Zhu still have any shame? Although he did think so about some things, he never expressed them. The nature of this matter is different now that it is spoken out, but his elder brother exposed him directly today and his voice was so loud. He quickly argued. Brother, I didn't. Brother, you're wronging me. He Waiguo swung his belt and whipped Sha Zhu. You're still trying to quibble. I'm going to beat you to death today, you filthy bastard. Chapter 19, Don't Hurt the Child. Sha Zhu's screams soon spread throughout the yard. There was no way to stop them because his screams were just too loud. At this moment, in the middle courtyard, at Yi Zhonghai's home, an old lady looked at Yi Zhonghai and said, Old Yi listened to Sha Zhu's voice. He must have been beaten badly by his eldest brother. Why don't you go over to his house and try to talk him out? Don't let Sha Zhu get hurt. Yi Zhonghai stood there in a daze. Logically speaking, as the eldest uncle in the courtyard, if something like this happened in the courtyard, he would definitely go and stop it. Plus, Sha Zhu usually listens to him. It is reasonable for him to go and persuade them. But he knew He Waiguo's character too well, and that temper was not something that ordinary people could stop. At this moment, he was really afraid that if he got close to them, he would have to eat the leftovers too. He looked at the aunt and said, Old woman, don't you know the character of the He family's boss? If I go up to him now, he might beat me up too. An aunt looked at Yi Zhonghai. Old Ye. You can't just not go because you're afraid. No matter what, you are the head of the courtyard. Besides, Zhuzi is usually nice to you. Now that he is being beaten by his eldest brother, I think you should go over and persuade him. Yi Zhonghai's face was not looking good at the moment. He glared at the aunt. You're a woman, what do you know? Why do you care so much? Should I interfere in other people's family affairs? After hearing what Yi Zhonghai said, the old lady shut up tactfully and said nothing more. In fact, Yi Zhonghai was afraid. If he hadn't tricked Sha Zhu into helping the Jia family, he would have really dared to go and persuade them. But the problem is that he knows his butt is crooked. The head of the He family is different from Sha Zhu. He is stubborn and easy to fool. If the eldest son of the He family thinks about what happened in the courtyard, he can probably guess what happened. If he goes over to her now, won't he be asking for trouble? The same situation is happening in the Jia family. At this moment, the family was in the house listening to Sha Zhu's screams and didn't even dare to go out. Jia Zhang had seen the eldest son of the He family today, and she was beaten badly. Qin Huiru and the old woman had similar reactions. The head of the He family was not someone to be trifled with, so they didn't dare to bring bad luck upon him. At first, Jia Dongsu didn't know who the head of the He family was, and he thought that He Waiguo was as easy to fool as Sha Zhu. After returning home and listening to his wife Qin Huiru's explanation of the whole story, he was now feeling nervous. He knows his mother best, what kind of person she is. His mother suffered such a big loss today, but he didn't make a fuss. So you can imagine how far the eldest son of the He family has come. Even his mother has learned her lesson. He is also scared to death now. If the eldest brother of the He family were to pursue the matter, he might also be punished. Do you think they dare to go out at this time? I can only hide in my home like a turtle, not daring to make any noise. But the other residents in the courtyard didn't have so many concerns, they still wanted to join in the fun. They didn't scheme against the Sha Zhu siblings like the Jia family and Yi Zhonghai did, so they weren't that weak. But among those who came over, there was no Liu Heizhang and Yan Bugui. These two old foxes are still very sensible. You said that as the second and third uncles, if they come here at this time and don't go up to persuade them, then where will the authority of the three uncles in the courtyard be placed? Going up to persuade him would be even more ridiculous. Given their power, if He Waiguo gets upset, he might just attack them, and then they will be in a very difficult position. Although they were also curious about what had happened, the two of them refused to come to the intermediate court. Most of the people gathered in the central courtyard were young people who just wanted to see He Waiguo's true face. After all, Brother Sha Zhu's name is really too famous. Some of the young people have seen it this afternoon, but a large number have not. After Sha Zhu's brother came back, everyone heard that he was very fierce. When they heard the noise coming from Sha Zhu in the house, they were really shocked. What a domineering person that Sha Zhu is. Except for a few old men, the rest of the people in the courtyard are really arrogant. especially Sudamo, who was usually beaten badly by Shaju. At this moment, he also came to the middle of the yard. When he heard Shaju's screams inside the house, he had a smug smile on his face. At this moment, Yan Jicheng looked at Sudamo and said, "De Mauer, you still dare to laugh. Normally, it's fine if you just laugh, but now that big brother Shaju is back, aren't you afraid that he'll beat you up?" When Yan Jicheng said this, Sudamo shrank his neck instantly. He usually fights with Shaju. Although he is always beaten by Shaju sometimes, he is not really afraid of Shaju in his heart. But if it were brother Shaju, he wouldn't even dare to have any thoughts of provocation, let alone do anything bad. He looked at Yan Jicheng and said, "Don't talk nonsense, kid. When did I laugh? I didn't laugh." Yan Jicheng glanced at him and said, "Tusk, look at you, you're such a coward." Sudamo looked at Yan Jicheng. "Hey, kid. Are you not scared? If you're not scared, go up and take a look. Do you dare?" Yan Jicheng curled his lips and said nothing. The ones who were most shocked at this moment were the boys from the second uncle's family, especially Liu Guangfu and Liu Guangshen. He and his two brothers were usually beaten the most at home, and the eldest brother Liu Guangqi was beaten less often. The two looked at each other and saw shock in each other's eyes. At this moment, they can be considered as the same kind of people as Shaju, and they are all the people who were beaten up by their families. Liu Guangfu said, "To be honest, when I heard Shaju's screams, I felt that our father had stopped beating us." Liu Guangshen nodded in agreement. "Damn it, I really thought our dad's beatings were usually pretty harsh, but now you hear Shaju's screams. I don't even know how hard his brother hit us." The residents in the courtyard also spoke up. "Isn't this idiot screaming too miserable?" "Yeah, that idiot Zhu usually walks around the yard with all his might, but today he got beaten up like this by his brother. So miserable. Just hearing that scream scares me. Didn't you hear the sound of the belt? It's so loud. Only Shaju can handle it. No one else can handle it." This idiot Zhu didn't expect that he would be beaten as soon as his brother came back. It was really miserable. Chapter 20. This beating? You don't deserve it. Sha Zhu's screams never stopped. And judging from the situation, He Waiguo has no intention of stopping. Although there were many people standing in the yard, most of them were just pointing and watching the show, and no one dared to step forward to dissuade them. Except He Yushui. She looked in the direction of the room and heard the screams of her second brother. She thought that her eldest brother was just trying to teach her a lesson, but she didn't expect that her eldest brother could be so cruel and beat her for so long. She was really afraid that her eldest brother would be beaten by her second brother. It is true that my second brother did a lot of wrong things, but he was always good to me. Even though she was really afraid of her elder brother, she still mustered up the courage to walk back to her room and knocked on her door. "Brother, stop hitting me, brother." As she spoke, the rain began to cry. "Don't hit me, big brother. Don't hit me, second brother." The rain was crying outside again. In her opinion, it was most likely her fault and she was just a burden. Although his second brother had not taken good care of himself in some areas over the years, he was still very grateful to him in his heart. Because He Daqing is his biological father, and he has run away and no longer cares about him. If it weren't for my second brother supporting me all these years, I would probably have starved to death. He Waiguo was beaten by Shaju and curled up in the corner, not daring to move. His voice was hoarse and he couldn't even scream. He Waiguo felt that it was enough. If he continued fighting, something would go wrong. It could be considered as a lesson for this kid. Hearing the sound of rain crying outside, he took advantage of the situation and pointed at Shaju with his belt and said, "All right, for the sake of the rain, I'll let you go today. He Yuzhu, remember this. You've saved me several beatings, you know that. We've only just finished today. Every single one of those awful things you've done is worthy of a beating. I haven't gotten many beatings yet. Just wait." Shaju was originally curled up in the corner, but when he heard that his brother finally stopped beating him, he felt relieved. But then his elder brother said that he had saved a few more beatings for him, which meant that he would be beaten again in the future. His face instantly fell. He really has no strength now and his voice is hoarse. Tears streamed down his face. It was so painful, he was really crying from being beaten. This was the worst beating he had ever received from his elder brother since he was a child. Although I was always beaten by my elder brother when I was a child, he had never been as cruel as he was today. He Waiguo stood up, picked up the bolt and pushed open the door, letting the rain in. At this moment, he also saw that there were many people gathered in the yard. He glanced around and said, "What are you looking at? Have you never seen brothers talk? Go home." After he roared, those in the yard who had wanted to watch the fun turned around and went home in shame. Waiguo's deterrent power is too strong. They dare not stay here any longer. If Sha Zhu's elder brother comes and beats them up, they won't be able to bear it. As soon as Yu Shui entered the house and saw Sha Zhu curled up in the corner in such a miserable state, she couldn't hold back her tears anymore, and they flowed out in a rush. He quickly walked to the table, holding Sha Zhu in his small body. "Woo-woo-woo, second brother, woo-woo-woo." Then he turned to look at Waiguo and sobbed, "Big brother, stop hitting second brother. It's all my fault." After he finished, he looked at Sha Zhu again and cried even harder. "Woo-woo, second brother, I'm sorry. It's all my fault that you got into trouble. If it weren't for me, big brother wouldn't have hit you." Sha Zhu glanced at Yu Shui at this moment, tears also hanging on his face. He touched Yu Shui's head and said in a hoarse voice, "Yu Shui, don't cry, it's none of your fault. It's my second brother. My second brother didn't do his job well." Seeing this scene, Waiguo felt quite relieved. At least these two little ones don't have so many thoughts, but they still have each other in their hearts. It's just that damn idiot Zhu has no brains, and the things he did are really unacceptable. After the corporal punishment, the next step is persuasive education. He looked at Sha Zhu and said, "Zhu Zai, did you see that? I just beat you so hard you were screaming in pain in the room. Did any of the uncles you usually respect, the Jia family you support, dare to even fart near you? Huh? Who was the one crying and begging for mercy outside in the end? Wasn't it the rain? Now you know who is the one who truly treats you well, right?" Sha Zhu was originally feeling very aggrieved, with tears on his face. But after hearing what Waiguo said, he suddenly felt a little ashamed and lowered his head. Waiguo looked at the rain, then at Sha Zhu, and his voice became deeper. "Zhu Zai, you didn't deserve the beating you received today. I'll make sure you understand why I hit you. Listen carefully, I'm only telling you this once. If you do it again, don't waste your time talking to me. I'll just beat you up. Remember this belt fried pork meal today. Next time you get beaten, don't be confused about where you went wrong." First, Waiguo raised a finger. "As a brother, you've neglected your duties, you're irresponsible. How starving is Yu Shui? He's just skin and bones. Are you blind and can't see? You actually asked her to take leave and stay home to take care of that bastard Bang Zheng for the Jia family. Do you know how much Yu Shui has been wronged by Bang Zheng? Do you know how that old hag Jia Zhang always scolds your sister? What? That's how you act like a brother." Second, he raised his second finger. "I hit you because you're stupid. Extremely stupid. Why would you take your own food rations to fill the Jia family's hole? Yi Zhonghai is Jia Dongsu's master. Why shouldn't he take it? There are two people in his family too. He earns more than you and has a larger ration than you. Why doesn't he help you? And you, a cook with a sister to support, have to pay for it. Where's your brain? Did a dog eat it?" Third, the third finger was raised. "I hit you because you're a slut. A 23-year-old man with a house and a job. Is it difficult for him to find a wife? Why the hell are you thinking about someone else's wife? How can you think about a woman of Qin Hueru's rank? They're treating you like a long-term meal ticket, playing you around like crazy. Can't you see that?" Fourth, he pointed in the direction of Sha Zhu's room with a look of disgust. "Look at yourself, look at your pigsty, what a mess, what a mess. He's so young, he's dressed shabbily, and his hair is a mess. Where is the youthful spirit in your body? What kind of person is he?" After saying this, Waiguo lowered his voice and said earnestly, "Zhu Zai, big brother is not an unreasonable person. But is there a single fucking human thing you do? Every single one of them deserves to be beaten. I still say the same thing, I'm only saying this today. If you do it again, I'll spank you again. I'll spank you until you learn your lesson. Now stop crying like a dead dog, go back to your doghouse, clean up the room. I'm going to check it later. If you dare to find anything unclean, you'll be whipped again." Chapter 21, Sha Zhu feels wronged. Sha Zhu had already returned to his room to clean up, leaving only Yu Shui and Waiguo in the room. Yu Shui looked at Waiguo and said, "Big brother, let me help second brother clean up. This way we can clean up faster." After saying that, she stood up and was about to help Sha Zhu clean up. "Stop," Waiguo stopped Yu Shui directly. He glanced at He Yushui and said, "Don't go, let him clean up himself." After being scolded by He Waiguo, Yushui's eyes turned red again. "But big brother, you just beat the second brother so badly, he must be in pain now. There's so much to clean in his room. I don't know how long it would take him to clean it all by himself." He Waiguo was very satisfied looking at the girl in front of him. At least this girl knows how to feel sorry for others. What he fears most is that kind of ungrateful person. It is true that Sha Zhu made mistakes and did not do many things well, so he should definitely be punished. But no matter what you say, it was not easy for Sha Zhu to pull the rainwater to grow so big, and now he just went astray on the road. Fortunately, Yu Shui did not hate her second brother because of the many grievances she suffered. This is worth affirming. As a family, we can go far only if we understand and help each other. Everyone makes mistakes sometimes, but as long as it is not a matter of principle, we can tolerate it. Even a fool like Sha Zhu is being manipulated by others. The main reason is that he is too soft-hearted, a little too concerned about reputation and self-righteous. He just didn't believe it. Now that he was back, he beat him up every day, and he didn't believe that he couldn't change Sha Zhu's character. He Waiguo looked at the rain and said earnestly, "Rainwater, say it again, brother. I hit Shuzi, not because I wanted to hit him, but because he did something wrong and he deserved it. Look at his room, it's as dirty as a pigsty. And the clothes he's wearing, how can he look like a young man? I'm not saying you can't help with housework, but you can't help him clean up today. You have to let him do it himself. Let him learn his lesson and realize that being so sloppy is not okay. Understand, although Yu Shui is not very old, he can still understand good and bad words." She could also hear the truth in what her elder brother said. Finally, she nodded, "Yeah, I'll listen to my brother." But his little eyes kept drifting towards the door, and it seemed that he still felt a little sorry for his second brother. Sha Zhu limped back to his room, grimacing in pain, with tears in the corners of his eyes. It's so embarrassing to tell anyone about it. He is a young man of 23 or 24 years old, but he was beaten to tears by his own brother. The most important thing is that he, Sha Zhu, is also a man who cares about face. Sha Zhu felt that he had always been a straightforward person, a typical urban man. He never imagined that one day he would be beaten like this. He was almost dead with grievance and kept muttering, "Tyrant, living devil." He came back and started beating people up without even asking any questions. How could you bully your own brother like this? The more Sha Zhu muttered, the more wronged he felt, and tears began to flow uncontrollably. But he didn't dare to stop. He first swept the things on the ground, and then put his dirty clothes, smelly socks, and other things into the basin. Then I started to clean my room seriously. However, even though he was cleaning, he never stopped talking and kept muttering to himself. He felt a little dissatisfied after being beaten by He Waiguo, but he didn't dare to refute him in person, so he could only talk behind his back. Over the years, his father ran away and his eldest brother disappeared again. He raised Yu Shui with great difficulty, and the sadness in it was only understood by him. But when the eldest brother came back and beat him up, do you think he wouldn't be angry? Maybe everyone has a different perspective. Sha Zhu thought that he was a relatively competent second brother. At least he did not abandon his sister, and at least he paid for her schooling. But he doesn't realize his problem. He is not strong enough, he is vain and concerned about reputation. He does things as a matter of course and completely ignores his sister's feelings. From He Waiguo's perspective, he has a god's perspective. He knew that if Sha Zhu continued to follow the old path, he would definitely suffer losses. He knew exactly what happened next. Let's not talk about Qin Huiru. After Jia Dongsu left, she started to pester Sha Zhu. Whenever Sha Zhu goes on a blind date, Qin Huiru always causes trouble. Then, when the two of them were really about to get married, Bang Zhang was a little angry because the two of them had been trying for so many years, but still couldn't get it done. The most outrageous thing is that Qin Huiru had an IUD. If it weren't for Lu Zaya, Sha Zhu wouldn't even have a wife and would have been left with no descendants. Anyway, the Jia family is full of vampires, so it would be best to cut off ties with them as soon as possible. There are also other uncles in the yard. None of them are good people. So from He Waiguo's perspective, he beat Sha Zhu and scolded Sha Zhu because he hoped that Sha Zhu could have a different life and live a normal life. This is his responsibility as the eldest brother. But Shaju now has no idea of this at all, so he is still mumbling in the next room. When He Waiguo heard this, he spoke loudly. He Yuju, if you keep talking nonsense, I'll come over and give you another beating right now, don't you believe it? Shaju was still very unconvinced at first, but when he heard his elder brother's roar, he immediately became obedient. It took Shaju 2 or 3 hours to clean his room and wash his dirty clothes in the yard. At this moment, he came to Yu Shui's room, pushed the door open, and walked in. He looked at He Waiguo timidly and said, "Brother I'm done packing, would you like to go and take a look?" He Waiguo then stood up and went to Sha Zhu's room. After turning around, the room now looks like a room. Although the quilt was still very dirty, at least the other places were cleaned up, and the dirty clothes, dirty socks, etc. were all disposed of. Now at least it was habitable. Seeing this scene, He Waiguo was very pleased and nodded. "Tell me, which is more comfortable to live in, this way or that pigsty before?" After hearing what He Waiguo said, Sha Zhu lowered his head and didn't dare to say a word. However, He Waiguo had not yet finished speaking when he opened his mouth and said, "Zhu Zai, go to your factory bathhouse tomorrow and have a good bath to clean yourself up. Go get your hair cut again. If you come back tomorrow afternoon, still looking this sloppy, I'll spank you." Seeing that today's task was almost completed, and it was getting late, He Waiguo also planned to go out. He looked at the rain and then at Sha Zhu and said, "Okay, you two take a break, I'm going to go out and find a place." Yu Shui knew that He Waiguo was going to build a guest house, but Sha Zhu was not aware of it. He asked, "Brother, where are you going?" He Waiguo glanced at him. "Guest house, where else can we go?" Hearing that He Waiguo was going to the guest house, Sha Zhu quickly stopped him. "Brother, why go to a guest house? It's a waste of money. Just sleep at home. You sleep on the bed, I'll sleep on the floor." He Waiguo glanced at Sha Zhu. "Do you have any extra quilts at home? It's getting cold, and you're going to get sick sleeping on the floor. I'll go buy a bed tomorrow and get some bedding. Never mind, I'll just stay out tonight." After saying that, he ignored the two people and turned to leave the yard. Chapter 22, Brother, You Are Unfair. The next morning, He Waiguo came out of the guest house. "I bought a few hot meat buns at a roadside stall and made 2 cups of soy milk, then walked towards the compound at number 95 Nanliwagixiang. As soon as I reached the gate of the compound, I saw Yan Bugui fiddling with his pots of half-dead flowers and plants. Yan Fugui also saw He Waiguo at this moment and said with a smile, "Hey, Waiguo, you're up so early, are you, back from buying breakfast?" He Waiguo didn't stop, just nodded perfunctorily, and had no intention of arguing with this gentleman at all. Seeing that He Waiguo was about to enter the yard, Yan Bugui quickly took a half step forward. "Hey, Waiguo, wait a minute. Uncle San wants to discuss something with you. Look, you have 4 buns. Give one to Uncle 3 to try, just one." He rubbed his hands, his eyes full of anticipation. He Waiguo looked at Yan Fugui jokingly and said, "Do you really want it?" "Yeah," Yan Fugui nodded. "Okay. Then come here," He Waiguo said. Yan Fugui walked up happily with a smile on his face and was about to reach out to take it. Snapped. A loud slap was heard. Yan Fugui's eyes were so far away from Sanfei. Yan Fugui covered his face, pointed at He Waiguo and said, "He Waiguo, do you understand the importance of respecting the elderly and loving the young? If you don't want to give me the buns, then don't give them." "Why did you hit me?" He Waiguo stared at Yan Bugui coldly and said, "Don't think I don't know what you were doing at the door yesterday. You said I was coming back to rob the house. Look how scared the rain was of my family. Being beaten is a light punishment, you disrespectful bastard." Yan Fugui originally wanted to say something, but when he saw He Waiguo's cold eyes, his face changed. In the end, he only dared to snort loudly, turned around angrily, and quickly went back to his room. He Waiguo shook his head, ignored the old man, and walked into the yard. When Yan Bugui entered the room, third Aunt Yang Ruihua saw that he looked angry and asked in confusion, "Old Yan, who are you angry with so early in the morning?" Yan Bugui sat down on the stool. He was too embarrassed to talk about being beaten, so he could only say in a sullen tone, "Who else could it be? The He family's eldest brother, He Waiguo. I saw he bought a few buns, so I discussed with him that we could share one to try and return it to him tomorrow. Hey, it's fine if he doesn't give it to me, and you really don't understand hierarchy. I'm the third uncle in the courtyard. Yan Jifeng, who was hiding in the house, immediately pricked up his ears when he heard the word Baozi. He walked to the door and looked at his father eagerly. Dad, when can we buy some meat buns? Look at Yu Shui's brother. He took her to a restaurant yesterday and bought her some buns today. Yu Shui is having such a wonderful life. Yan Jifeng now really envies Yu Shui because he has delicious food every day. Yan Bugui was so angry that he had no place to vent his anger. When he heard his son's words, he immediately glared at him and scolded him. Beautiful? What the hell is beautiful? What do you know, kid? You only know how to eat. You're such a shallow-minded person. He acted like a calculating and wise man. That he Waiguo, relying on the few severance pay he had just received from his military service, is spending lavishly. With this kind of thing, I think the little money in his pocket will be gone in a few days. These days, you have to wait in line to get a job. I don't know how long it will take for his job to be available. When the time comes, go and drink the northwest wind. Those tough times are ahead. He Waiguo is a prodigal son. You want to learn from him. You'll starve. Yan Jifeng was so choked by his father's theory that he was speechless. He shrank his neck, but in his heart he was extremely dissatisfied and disdainful. Humph. When he grows up and earns his own money, he can buy whatever he wants. He Waiguo came to the middle courtyard carrying buns and soy milk. In the yard, Sha Zhu and Yu Shui were squatting by the pool brushing their teeth and washing their faces. Jia Dongsu and Yi Zhonghai were also there. When Yi Zhonghai raised his eyes and saw He Waiguo coming towards him, his expression changed slightly. He didn't even bother to dry his face. He just draped the towel over his shoulders, took the wash basin, and went into his house without even saying hello. He Waiguo glanced at Yi Zhonghai's panicked back, and a sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth. As for Jia Dongsu, the toothbrush was still in his mouth and his face was only half washed. I could only force a smile and say, He family boss, good morning. He Waiguo glanced at him and nodded lightly as a response. After all, you shouldn't hit someone who smiles at you. He didn't know much about Jia Dongsu. When the TV series started, this guy was already hanging on the wall. But with his mother's appearance and Bang Zhang's personality, it would be nonsense to say that Jia Dongsu is very upright. He Waiguo ignored Jia Dongsu and turned to look at Yu Shui, who was wiping her face. His voice became gentler. Rainwater, hurry up and come inside. I bought you some buns and hot soy milk. Yu Shui's little face instantly lit up. Thank you, big brother. He Waiguo didn't mention Sha Zhu's share at all. Sha Zhu watched eagerly from the side, and seeing that his elder brother had no intention of paying any attention to him, he could only shamelessly come over and ask, Brother, then, what about mine? He Waiguo glanced at him as if he had just seen him and said in a flat tone, Oh, you? Sorry, I forgot to buy it. After saying that, he walked straight into Yu Shui's house with breakfast. Sha Zhu's hand, holding the towel, froze in midair, and he looked at his brother's back in disbelief. He immediately understood that his elder brother did it on purpose. A feeling of grievance and dissatisfaction surged in his heart. He wiped his face angrily. He threw the towel into the basin and went back into the house. The more he thought about it, the more uncomfortable he felt, and his feet involuntarily moved to the door of the rainwater house. When I pushed the door open, I saw Yu Shui and He Waiguo sitting at the small table and eating. He Waiguo looked up at him and said, What are you doing here? Didn't I tell you there's no place for you? Sha Zhu swallowed his saliva and forced a flattering smile on his face. Brother, this is too unfair. Rainwater has it, but I don't. Brother, you bought so many buns. Give me one to try. He Waiguo put down the bun in his hand and looked at him with a half-smile. Oh, unfair. So you even know how to write the word unfair. His tone suddenly turned cold. Then let me ask you, when you happily give the lunch boxes you bring back from the factory to the Jia family, why don't you think about whether it's fair? What? Yu Shui is your own sister. She's your own sister. Yu Shui is eating steamed bread at home, and you're giving away good things to outsiders. Did your fairness get to the dogs then? He Waiguo bought breakfast, but not for Sha Zhu, because he wanted to use this most direct little thing to teach Sha Zhu a lesson and make him understand the stupid things he had done. Let him experience this feeling firsthand. Sure enough, after He Waiguo said this, Sha Zhu lowered his head in shame. Seeing his second brother's pitiful and dejected appearance, Yu Shui felt a pang of regret. He picked up a bun in front of him and was about to hand it to Sha Zhu. Second brother, don't be sad, I'll give you one of my buns. This is for you. No, He Waiguo's voice was not loud, but it was filled with unquestionable majesty. Eat your own. Chapter 23, Zhou Zhenbang comes to see you. What He Waiguo and his sister were eating in the house was so delicious. Nowadays, people are almost instinctively sensitive to the smell of meat. The tempting aroma of meat drifted into the Jia family next door without any hesitation. On the Jia family's dining table, the cornmeal porridge, which was so thin that you could see a person's reflection in it, was emitting pitiful steam, and there was not even a sign of a steamed bun. The family held the bowl and just took a sip out of habit when the overbearing and tempting aroma of meat entered their nostrils. Jia Zhang held the bowl, but she couldn't swallow the thin porridge in her throat. She felt that the porridge in her mouth was bland and bitter. She suddenly put down the bowl, stared at the He family with cloudy eyes, and cursed. God damn it, He Waiguo, you're eating alone behind closed doors so early in the morning. Meat buns, they're so delicious. And you didn't even bother to give the old man a couple to try. What's the point of that little girl Yu Shui eating so well? She's nothing but a money loser. Qin Huer was so frightened that her face turned pale, and she quickly lowered her voice to dissuade him. Mom, keep your voice down, don't yell. It would be terrible if the He family boss heard you. Didn't you suffer enough yesterday? Jia Dongsu also shrank his neck and nodded repeatedly, his voice filled with fear. Mom, please calm down. That He Waiguo, he's a living devil. Yesterday you were. He didn't finish his words, but his meaning was clear. Pooh. Jia Zhang turned her head sharply like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, her saliva almost spraying onto Jia Dongsu's face. You're a coward, a weakling. Your mom got beaten up and you're like a gourd with its mouth sawed off, too scared to even fart. I raised a son like you in vain, you spineless thing. Jia Dongsu's face turned pale and blue from being scolded. He stiffened his neck and whispered back, Mom, you were the one who cursed the rain first. Besides his fists, his physique, how can I reason with him? After saying that, he immediately lowered his head, holding the bowl and wanting to bury his face in it. The atmosphere at the He family was not entirely harmonious either. Sha Zhu watched his elder brother He Waiguo and younger sister Yu Shui eating delicious meat buns, but there was nothing in front of him. He felt a surge of resentment in his heart. Although he was a cook and had no shortage of food and his salary could afford it, he felt that his elder brother's differential treatment was unfair and he was embarrassed. He stood up suddenly without even looking at anyone, angrily slammed the door curtain and rushed out of the house. Just as Sha Zhu rushed out of the gate of the compound, he was stunned by a dark green military jeep parked at the gate. The car door opened, and a middle-aged man in his 40s, wearing a neat Zhongshan suit and with a calm demeanor, walked down. The man saw Sha Zhu and took the initiative to step forward, his tone gentle but with unquestionable majesty. Hello, young comrade. Does He Waiguo live in this compound? The anger in Sha Zhu's heart was instantly dissipated by this scene and the opponent's momentum. He nodded quickly, his tone unconsciously becoming respectful. Yes, He Waiguo is my elder brother. The middle-aged man laughed out loud when he heard this and looked Sha Zhu up and down. Hey, you're just a fool, right? Your brother keeps talking about you to me. He patted Sha Zhu's shoulder in a very friendly manner. When Sha Zhu heard this, the grievance in his heart suddenly deflated like a balloon that had been popped, and instead he felt a secret sense of pride. Has Big Brother ever mentioned me in front of outsiders? Or in front of such a big shot driving a military jeep? He immediately straightened his back and put on a smile. Ah, really? Uncle, are you looking for my brother? I'll take you in. The middle-aged man waved his hand cheerfully. Why call me uncle? Your brother calls me Big Brother, so you can just follow suit. My last name is Joe, so call me Big Brother Joe. Hey, Brother Joe, come with me. There was a hint of attentiveness in Sha Zhu's voice. He caught a glimpse of Yan Bugui peeking from the corner, but was intimidated by Zhou Zhenbang's aura and didn't dare to come up and talk to him. Zhou Zhenbang turned around and took out a bulging canvas bag from the back seat of the jeep, then followed Sha Zhu into the yard. Brother Zhou is here to see you. Before Sha Zhu even reached the central courtyard, the loud voice started shouting, with a hint of showing off. He Waiguo, who was in the room, immediately came out upon hearing the noise. Seeing Zhou Zhenbeng, his face showed genuine surprise and enthusiasm. "Commander, why did you come here in person?" Zhou Zhenbeng punched him on the shoulder in feigned anger. "Why call me battalion commander? I've already taken off my uniform. Call me big brother. If you keep on talking nonsense like that, I'll be mad." His tone was intimate, with the familiarity of an old comrade. "All right, brother Zhou. Please come in." He Waiguo smiled and let Zhou Zhenbeng into the house, then turned to Yu Shui and said, "Yu Shui, quickly pour brother Zhou a glass of water." "Hey," the rain responded crisply, and trotted to get the thermos and cup. Zhou Zhenbeng sat down in the room, his eyes swept across the rain, his brows slightly furrowed, and he turned to He Waiguo, his tone full of elderly concern. "Waiguo, this is Yu Shui, right? This child is too thin, a little unrecognizable. It's obvious that she's in poor health. As the eldest brother, you have to find a way to nourish her." He Waiguo nodded in agreement. "You are right, brother Zhou." After saying that, he habitually glared at Sha Zhu, who was shrinking his neck beside him. When Sha Zhu was glared at by his elder brother, he subconsciously shrank back and dared not say a word. Zhou Zhenbeng saw this scene and understood it, but as an outsider, he didn't want to say much. He picked up the canvas bag he brought and pushed it directly in front of He Waiguo. "Here, Waiguo. Open it and take a look. Cloth coupons, cotton coupons. I got them all for you. Oh, I knew you were going to buy some household items, so I got 2 extra bicycle coupons." He Waiguo's eyes lit up. This was exactly what he needed. As he opened the bag, he expressed his sincere gratitude. "Thank you so much, brother Zhou. I was thinking of asking you for some tickets these past couple of days. You're really a timely help." Zhou Zhenbeng laughed and scolded. "Hey, you're really not polite to me. Okay, I'll give you your honesty, but I didn't get you a watch ticket." He winked mischievously. "Don't think I don't know, kid. I've got a big American anchor hidden in my luggage. Don't act poor." He Waiguo was caught in the act, chuckled and scratched his head. Those were spoils of war captured on the Korean battlefield. At this time, Yu Shui carefully handed over the cup of water. "Brother Zhou, have some water." "Hey, good boy, thank you for the rain." Zhou Zhenbeng took the water cup and took a sip, then put it down and stood up. "Okay, the tickets are here and I should be leaving now. I made this trip just for you today. I have so much to do." He walked to the door, then thought of something and turned back. "Oh, Minger, I'm free tomorrow, so I'll come find you. We still have 2 days to spare before we report in, so come with me to the ditch outside the city to play some fishing. It's too boring to go alone." He Waiguo readily agreed. "Okay. Brother Zhou, since you've given the order, I won't be going anywhere tomorrow. I'll be waiting for you at home." Chapter 24, Buying a Bicycle for Yu Shui. "Brother, I'll take you there." Seeing that Zhou Zhenbeng was about to leave, He Waiguo planned to send Zhou Zhenbeng out. After all, the old squad leader made a special trip today to take care of him. Zhou Zhenbeng quickly raised his hand. All right, don't send me off, I can walk on my own." Then he turned his gaze to Sha Zhu. "Hey, Zhuzai, do you work in a steel mill?" Sha Zhu nodded repeatedly. "Yes, brother Zhou." "That's perfect." Zhou Zhenbeng slapped his thigh. "I need to go to the steel mill to do some work. You can take my car and go with me." When He Yuzhu heard this, his eyes lit up and he was overjoyed. "This Jeep. He Yuzhu has never sat on a chair in his life. I can ride it for once today. When I get to the factory, won't my coworkers' eyes pop out? This is such a great honor." He nodded hurriedly. "Hey, okay. Brother Zhou, I'll go with you." After saying that, the two of them walked out of the yard. After Zhou Zhenbeng left, He Waiguo returned to the house and opened the bag that Zhou Zhenbeng had just given him. "Hey, good guy." There were all kinds of tickets in it, such as industrial coupons and cloth coupons. Zhou Zhenbeng basically got him everything that could be used, and the quantity was quite large. It'll last him a while. These days, even if you have money, you can't get anything without this stuff. The most valuable things here are definitely the 2 bicycle tickets. Seeing this, he turned to the rain and said, "Yu Shui, I'll take you to the department store later. I'll buy you a new bicycle. How about it?" When Yu Shui heard that her brother was going to buy her a bicycle, she looked incredulous. That's a bicycle. In this day and age, having a bicycle is a very impressive thing. Ordinary families simply cannot afford it, mainly because they cannot get tickets. Besides, She is only 14 years old now and still in junior high school. How can she ride a bicycle in junior high school? This is too ostentatious. It is no exaggeration to say that riding a bicycle to middle school in this era is equivalent to driving a BMW or Audi to school in later generations. Yushui waved his hands repeatedly, shaking his head like a rattle. Brother, no, this is too expensive. How old am I? I don't need it, I really don't need it. Waiguo glanced at him. What's so expensive about it? I didn't buy it just for you to show off. It's so convenient to go to and from school with this thing. He paused and said, not only a bicycle, but I'll also pick out some nice new clothes for you. Shui really wanted a bicycle. If she had one, it would be much more convenient for her to go to school, but she was particularly conflicted. She didn't want her brother to spend so much money on a bicycle. She thought it was too expensive. Brother, forget it. I still have clothes I can wear, and there's no need to waste money on a bicycle. Waiguo looked at his sister who was so sensible, so he reached out and touched Shui's head. He actually knew in his heart that there was no such thing as a bicycle or new clothes that a child would not like. This girl is afraid of spending money, so she says no. He looked at the rain, his tone gentle but unquestionable. Girl, don't worry about me spending money. I've saved a lot of money during my years in the army. Buying you a bicycle is a piece of cake. It's a deal. After saying this, he didn't wait for Yushui to refuse and said, okay, hurry up and change into something neat, and let's go out. I'll also change into casual clothes. Soon the two of them packed up and walked into the yard. As soon as I arrived in the yard, I saw an old lady washing clothes there. The aunt looked at the two siblings and said, Waiguo Yushui, are you going out? Waiguo looked at the aunt and nodded. Yes, Aunt Yi, take Yushui to the department store and buy her some new clothes. Look at what she's wearing, all patched up, nothing presentable. I'll also buy some household items while you're there. The aunt looked at Waiguo, put down her work and said kindly, Waiguo, listen to Auntie. The clothes in that ready-made clothing store are very expensive. How about this, you buy some cloth and come back. Auntie is very quick and can make a few suits for you two without paying a penny. This will save you a lot of money. Waiguo was actually quite puzzled. He looked at the aunt's expression and felt that what she said was not false, but he couldn't understand. Logically speaking, this aunt and Yi Zhonghai were a couple, and they lived together. The aunt must be aware of all the dirty things Yi Zhonghai did. Why does he feel that this old lady and Yi Zhonghai are two different people? He really didn't understand. But some things can't be judged by appearances, only later can we know what they are like. But he didn't want to owe a favor to the aunt, so he said directly, Aunt Yi, I appreciate your kindness. But buying the cloth is too much trouble for you. We can just buy some ready-made ones. It saves us a lot of trouble. The aunt looked at Waiguo and continued to persuade him. You kid. Why are you being so polite to your aunt? Auntie's got nothing to do at home anyway. It won't take much effort to make you a few clothes. You really need to be frugal with this money. You haven't married yet, and Daching isn't around. Getting married and building a house will cost money, so you need to be frugal, young man. Waiguo looked at the aunt, his attitude still polite but firm. Aunt Yi, what you said makes sense, but I have my own plans, and there's no rush to get married. Besides, I still have a few cents in my pocket. I can still afford to buy some clothes for Shui. I've been away from home for all these years, and I owe my younger brothers and sisters too much. This little compensation is what I deserve. When Auntie heard Waiguo say this, she didn't know what to say and sighed. Well, okay, you young people have an idea. Waiguo then turned to look at Shui and said, Let's go, Shui. Yeah, Shui nodded and followed Waiguo's pace. After seeing the two people leave the middle courtyard, Jia Zhang dared to emerge from under the window and speak in a low voice. Bah, why are you pretending to be so high and mighty? Even more showy than Shaju. With that little bit of severance pay he has, I wonder how long he can last. He's just trying to be rich. When his money is all gone, he'll be left with nothing. It's so hard to find work these days. There's a long queue at the neighborhood office. When he's out of money and out of work, what will he do? The aunt glanced at Jia Zhang and rubbed the clothes while admonishing. Sister-in-law, please stop talking. Haven't you learned enough from yesterday's lesson? The He family boss has a temper that can easily get irritated. If he hears you mumbling behind your back, he'll probably come knocking on your door again. Then, won't you be the one who suffers? Chapter 25, Shaju's brother. Absolutely tough guy. Shaju was very happy after riding in Zhou Zhenbang's car. He had never ridden in this kind of jeep before. The feeling was so good that he felt a little more impressive. On the way to the steel mill, Zhou Zhenbang was not idle either. He said to Shaju, "Zhu Zai, I heard from your brother that you are 23 years old. Do you have a girlfriend?" When asked by Zhou Zhenbang, Shaju scratched his head a little embarrassedly and said, Brother Zhou, not yet, not yet." Zhou Zhenbang glanced at him and said with a smile, "Hey, it's okay. As a man, your career should come first. You're in the prime of your life at this age. You should hone your skills at the factory and get promoted as a chef. With some money in your pocket and your brother helping you out, finding a wife won't be a problem for you." For some reason, when Zhou Zhenbang mentioned the matter of getting a wife, the person that Shaju thought of was Qin Huiru. As soon as this thought came to his mind, he remembered that he was beaten up by his elder brother yesterday and quickly put this idea out of his mind. He knew better than anyone that if he really got involved with Qin Huiru, his eldest brother would beat him to death. Seeing Shaju standing there in a daze without saying anything, Zhou Zhenbang continued, "Zhuzi, I'm not saying anything to you, brother Zhou. Even a young man like you needs to take care of yourself. Look at your clothes and your hair. You need to tidy it up. Learn from your brother, just stand there and you'll be full of energy. You haven't even found a wife yet, so you need to be energetic and spirited. Clothes make the man, and if you're well-groomed, girls will be more pleasing to you. Isn't that right?" Shaju nodded repeatedly. Yes, yes, brother Zhou, you are right." In fact, what Zhou Zhenbang said was also what his elder brother said to him yesterday. "It seems that I was indeed too sloppy before. From today on, I have to change my image." He remembered that his elder brother told him to take a shower in the factory bathhouse today and then clean his hair before going back. He almost forgot. "If I forget, I will definitely get beaten again when I go home at night." The two chatted casually and soon arrived at the entrance of the steel mill. When they arrived at the factory gate, Shaju got out of the car, and Zhou Zhenbang drove the car directly into the factory. Because he is now the deputy minister of the armed forces, even the security department in the factory would not dare to stop him as long as he shows his ID. In fact, it doesn't matter whether you have an ID or not. This military jeep is the biggest pass. When Shaju got out of the car, he met an acquaintance. Liu Lan looked at Shaju, her eyes almost glued to the jeep, and came over, lowering her voice, her face full of gossip. "Hey, silly Zhu, you're so good. Which car did you take? Who was it? Why are you so arrogant?" She poked Shaju's arm. "Tell me quickly, which god did you climb up to? That car is not for ordinary people to ride." Shaju felt so happy that his vanity was rising. He cleared his throat in a reserved manner. "Hey, what's the point of climbing up to him? That's my brother Zhou. My brother's old battalion commander. A hero who just came down from the Korean front." When Liu Lan heard this, her eyes widened. "What? Silly Zhu, you have a brother. And he's a soldier." Shaju puffed out his chest and raised his chin. "Of course, my eldest brother. He's been in the army for 10 years. The Liberation War and the Korean War were fought with real swords and guns. They were amazing." Liu Lan was truly in all this time. In this day and age, people generally had a high regard for soldiers. "I never realized, silly Zhu, you have such a heroic brother." That is. Shaju was so proud that he almost flew up in the air, forgetting the pain of being beaten yesterday, spitting everywhere. "My eldest brother is not only good at fighting. Back in our Nanliuagixiang, he was also a well-known figure. No matter which path you take, if you are a dragon you have to coil up, if you are a tiger you have to lie down. When you see my elder brother, you must respectfully call him Brother Waiguo." Shaju was talking excitedly, feeling very proud, as if his brother's status in the underworld was his, as if talking about his brother was the same as talking about himself. He felt so good. Just when he was feeling so happy, Su Damo's sarcastic voice pierced him like a needle. "Hey there, stupid Zhu, this is such a boast. Who was it that your brother beat up last night, making him cry out for his parents and scream like crazy? I could hear it clearly even through the wall." Su Damo sucked his teeth, looking disdainful. "You're already in your 20s, and you're still being beaten to a pulp by your own brother. Tusk, tusk, tusk. In our courtyard, you're the only one like a scorpion shitting." Su Damo's words immediately broke Sha Zhu's pride. He immediately became angry and pointed at Sudamo. "Son thief. Are you looking for a fight?" Sudamo was not afraid of him and squinted his eyes. "What? Still want to start a fight in the factory? The security department is right in front. Besides, what did I say wrong? Do you dare to say that you didn't get beaten yesterday?" He deliberately looked Shaju up and down, grinning evilly, and said, "Not convinced. If you have the guts, lift up your clothes and let everyone see. Are those bruises on your body your brother's belt marks?" After hearing what Sudamo said, Shaju felt so embarrassed that his face turned red. Mainly what Sudamo said is true. He is now in his 20s and was beaten by his elder brother. It is really embarrassing to talk about this kind of thing, but there is nothing he can do. Others don't know his elder brother, but he really knows his elder brother. Not to mention he's in his 20s, he's probably in his S or S. If his elder brother said he wanted to beat him up, then he would still be beaten up. There is really no way. Finally, he glared at Sudamo fiercely and could only snort loudly through his nose. Like a defeated rooster, he walked towards the cafeteria in a dejected manner. Seeing Shaju looking so angry and frustrated, Liu Lan laughed out loud from behind. "You know what? Shaju looks quite cute when he's angry today." Liu Lan looked at Sudamo and said, "Sudamo, you're such a mean person. Juzi finally got the chance to show off, and you had to expose him. What's the benefit of letting him vent his anger?" Sudamo rolled his eyes at Liu Lan and snorted. "Tusk. He's always trying to sabotage me and ruin my plans behind my back, and I can't even give him a little trouble. This is called tit for tat." Liu Lan was already accustomed to the feud between the two, and was too lazy to argue about it. Instead, she asked curiously, "Hey Damo, is that what Shaju said about his big brother? Really that awesome? Is he really as awesome as he says he is?" At this point, Sudamo put away his playful smile and nodded seriously, which was rare for him. Usually, Shaju likes to show off, but his elder brother Hiwaiguo. Sudamo extended his thumb and shook it vigorously. He's definitely a tough nut. Shaju isn't bragging about this. Chapter 26, Department Store. Hiwaiguo took Yushui out and headed straight for the Wangfujing department store. It was a long walk, so the brother and sister took a trollobus. It would take some time to reach the destination. Hiwaiguo suddenly remembered the instant kill system he had awakened. He was too busy yesterday and had no time to take a closer look. Taking advantage of this free time, he opened the system interface in his mind. The system interface is simple, showing two products to be sold out. When he saw the product clearly, Hiwaiguo almost laughed out loud. A bag of white rabbit candy and a belt. The flash sale price is only 1 cent. "Haha, this system really understands me," Hiwaiguo muttered to himself. "What's a belt for? It's for beating idiots. Toffees are naturally for the rain." He was quite surprised by the thoughtfulness of this system. Without hesitation, he chose to kill instantly. The system prompt sounded immediately. "Second sale successful. The product has been saved to your personal space." Hiwaiguo explored with his mind and found that the two items were already lying in his space. Since today's flash sale quota has been used up, Hiwaiguo no longer focuses on the system. Not long after, the tram arrived at the station with a ding-dong sound, and the brother and sister walked into the magnificent department store. The dazzling array of goods made Yushui's eyes unable to see enough, and her little hands tightly grasped Hiwaiguo's sleeves. Hiwaiguo's goal today was very clear. He headed straight for the clothing area despite the rain. There was also a cloth shop nearby, and the price was cheaper. But none of the three He siblings knew how to make clothes, and he was even more reluctant to ask the aunties in the courtyard for help, as they had different ideas. Ready-made clothes were his only option. As soon as you walk in, the unique atmosphere of this era hits you. A striking red slogan, "Save Cloth," was painted on the wall, and crisscrossing wires were overhead, with bills sliding towards the cash register. This was the characteristic of this era. The sales clerks didn't have many smiles on their faces. Some were leaning against the counter eating sunflower seeds, while others were knitting sweaters. Nowadays, if you don't hit people, you're considered polite when it comes to service. Hiwaiguo walked straight up to a female salesperson in her 30s and said in a calm tone, "Comrade, please, I'm here to help my sister pick out some clothes. Which direction is the women's clothing section?" The salesperson didn't even raise his eyelids, but lazily raised his hand and pointed in a direction, muttering, Can't you read the sign yourself? The words are so big. He Waiguo was not angry and said in a deep voice, "Thank you." I walked over with the shivering rain. What catches the eye are various linen suits, modified Zhongshan suits, student uniforms, and thick corduroy jackets. He Waiguo pointed at the dazzling array of clothes and softened his voice. "You Shui, pick one out. Which one do you like? I'll buy it for you." Yu Shui looked at the brand new clothes, her eyes shining like stars. Her small hand carefully touched the corner of a navy blue student uniform, then quickly retracted it and said timidly, "Brother, are you really going to buy it, or should we forget about it? It's too expensive. My clothes can still be worn after patching them up." She lowered her head and grabbed her old cotton-padded jacket, which was washed white and patched up with patches, her little face flushed with embarrassment. He Waiguo frowned. "You Shui, didn't we agree on this at home yesterday? What's become of yours? Will it keep you warm? Listen to me." Seeing that Yu Shui was still standing there motionless, he simply stopped waiting and started to pick it for the girl himself.